We're back on the channel with one of those videos that One Piece fans love. Today I'm bringing you over 3 hours of One Piece theories, a video you can have in the background while doing anything, whether it's working out, cleaning, cooking, or whatever you want. And actually, if you're one of those people who listens to this in the background, let me know in the comments what you're doing while listening, because I love reading your messages. Also, if you enjoy this kind of video, hit the like button right now and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 3,000 subscribers and make my dream come true. Now, let's get started with the video. The mural that appears in chapter 1138 of One Piece is absolutely mind-blowing because it shows us something we've never seen before, clear information about the Void Century. And not only that, but there are also 3 texts that divide the world's history into 3 different eras. The idea is that these 3 worlds represent the past, present, and future of the One Piece world. What is written in these texts is crucial because it gives us clues about the origin of the conflict that still affects the current story. First world, this is like the year 0 of the One Piece world. It marks the beginning of everything. It mentions the creation of the land, the appearance of certain gods, and a conflict related to the Forbidden Sun. Second world, this is closer to what we know. It takes place 800 years ago during the infamous Void Century. This is the era when Joy Boy was active, and apparently something catastrophic happened that led to the creation of the world government. Third world, this is the present and the future. It gives us hints about what might happen in the main story, mentioning things like the return of the sun and a new dawn. This strongly aligns with the revolution that Luffy is stirring up in the world. The interesting part here is that, according to these texts, some things about the future are already written, and that's strange because it means someone knew all of this was going to happen. Oda left us this mural with drawings and ambiguous phrases so that fans would go crazy making theories, because there is clearly something much bigger behind the story of One Piece that we still don't fully understand. Here we dive into the concept of the First World, the oldest known period in the history of One Piece. This is where a bunch of strange things are mentioned, like gods, forbidden energies, and cosmic conflicts that sound straight out of mythology. The first thing we learn is that from fire, the land emerged, and that humans, as always, got too curious and messed with something they shouldn't have. The Forbidden Sun. What is the Forbidden Sun? It's not explained clearly, but it seems to be an incredibly powerful energy source, something that grants infinite power. The oppressed people cried out for help, and that's when the Sun God appeared. And this is where everything starts linking back to Joy Boy Nika Luffy, because we already know from the series that there's a deep connection between them. But of course, things weren't that simple. There was also a god of the earth who got furious when the Sun God emerged. Who is this god of the earth? There are theories that it could be Imu, the shadowy ruler of the world government. There's even a statue in One Piece called Verth that might be the key to understanding this figure. Then a mysterious entity is mentioned, the serpent of infernal fire. No one knows exactly what the hell it is. Some believe it represents the Red Line, the massive landmass that divides the seas. Others think it might be connected to Dragon, Luffy's father, since the mural shows markings that resemble his tattoo. And finally, we're told that the battle between the Sun God and the Earth God ended in total chaos, darkness and death everywhere. The craziest detail, in this world they were never able to find each other, which suggests that something or someone was supposed to unite them but failed. Who? We don't know yet, but this connects to an unresolved part of the story. In summary, the First World sets up a conflict between 2 opposing forces, a forbidden energy source, and a catastrophic outcome that changed history forever. The Second World, where everything starts connecting to One Piece's main story. This is the Void Century, meaning it took place 800 years ago, during the time when something so massive happened that the world government erased all evidence of that era. At this point, we're no longer just talking about the Sun God and the Earth God. A new player enters the story, the Forest God. Who is the Forest God? No one knows for sure. Some believe it could be Ryokugyu, the Marine Admiral with the Nature Devil fruit that allows him to control plants. But honestly, he doesn't seem important enough to be considered a god in this context. Then we're told that the forest god sent his demons, and that the sun spread war everywhere. This means a massive conflict was already underway, probably the one that led to the Great War between Joy Boy and the world government. A mysterious connection, the people of the moon and the crescent moon. It's mentioned that the people of the moon and the people of the crescent moon had a dream. Who are they? A strong theory suggests that the people of the crescent moon are the D clan, because the letter D looks like a crescent moon. Then they drop a huge revelation. Men killed the sun and proclaimed themselves gods. This sounds like the birth of the world government. They didn't kill Joy Boy Nika, but they probably destroyed or stole the Forbidden Sun, the infinite energy source. By taking control of that power, they were able to establish themselves as the new gods of the world. The sea god appears. A new mysterious figure is mentioned, the sea god. It's said that this sea god unleashed his fury when all of this happened. The strange thing is that back in Skypiea, we were told about 4 gods: sun, forest, earth, and rain. But here, the rain god is replaced by the sea god. Are they the same entity, or are they 2 completely different figures? The key phrase, returns, they were never able to meet. Once again, we see the same phrase from the first world. Something or someone was meant to unite, but it didn't happen. This could refer to Joy Boy and the mermaid princess of that time, Poseidon. Or it could be something much bigger that we still don't understand. At this point, the story is completely broken wide open. We're being told that in the past, there was an enormous power. That power was taken by those who became the world government, and that this led to an all-out war that shaped the world as we know it today. The third world, the present and future of One Piece. This text is less descriptive than the previous ones, but it drops a ton of hints that suggest we already have an idea of how the series will end. From the void, chaos emerged. This seems to imply that after everything that happened in the Void Century, the world fell into total disorder. Most likely this chaos refers to the world government taking control and erasing all traces of real history. Then, we get a crucial statement: the remnants of the uncomfortable remember the day of the promise. This is about all the people who still follow Joy Boy's will, such as the D-Clan, the followers of the ancient civilization. The promise could refer to the one Joy Boy made to Poseidon on Fishman Island, the one he was never able to fulfill. The sun god dances and laughs as he leads the world to its end. This screams Luffy, his laughter, his dancing, his Gear 5 transformation. Everything aligns with this. This text is basically telling us that Luffy is the one bringing the change that will lead to the grand finale of the story. The sun will return, and a new dawn along with it. This is a clear reference to the New Dawn prophecy, which has been mentioned multiple times throughout the series. It strengthens the idea that when Luffy completes his mission, the world will return to what it was before the Void Century. Then, we get the game-changing phrase, "This time, they will surely meet." In the previous text, we saw the phrase, "They were never able to meet," implying something or someone was supposed to reunite but never did. But now, in this era, that reunion will finally happen. The most logical interpretation is that this refers to Luffy and Shirahoshi, Poseidon. They could finally fulfill the promise that Joy Boy and the ancient mermaid princess couldn't complete 800 years ago. But here's where things get even more interesting. What exactly is the sun that will return? Many theories say it refers to Luffy as Nika, but there's a wilder possibility. The Forbidden Sun, the infinite energy source that the world government has kept hidden for centuries, might reactivate. And if that happens, Emu might try to use it again to stop Luffy. This ties into something Doflamingo said about the national treasure of Mary Jawaz. He once said, "Power rots." This could mean that the Forbidden Sun has been inactive or weakened for centuries. If it reactivates in the present, it could be the key to the final showdown of the series. What this means for the end of One Piece. This text is telling us that Luffy is the key to the story's conclusion. The world is reaching a breaking point where everything will change. Something that was impossible in the past will finally happen in this era. Third World is the era we are currently watching unfold in One Piece, and everything suggests that the final battle will be deeply connected to the history revealed in these texts. The fifth point, the problem with the gods in the mural. This is where things start to get complicated because there is a major inconsistency with the gods mentioned in the mural. Here's the issue. In Skypiea, during the Noland and Calgara flashback, 4 gods were mentioned: Sun God, Forest God, Earth God, Rain God. So far, everything makes sense. But in the mural from chapter 1138, instead of the Rain God, we see a Sea God. There are 3 possible explanations for this. Oda changed the name over time, and now it's called Sea God instead of Rain God. They are 2 separate entities. Skypiea might have been referring to one, while the mural talks about someone entirely different. There's something off with the translation, and it's actually the same being, just written differently. If these gods are real and have always existed in the One Piece world, then a much bigger question arises. Who is the sea god? The most obvious answer would be Poseidon, since we already know that the mermaid princess has the power to control the Sea Kings. But here's the problem. In the mural, there is nothing that explicitly states that Poseidon and the sea god are the same entity, and if they aren't, then there is another powerful being in the ocean that we know nothing about. The confusion deepens. What the Sea Kings said in Roger's flashback in the Fishman Island flashback. The Sea Kings said, "Our king will be born, another will be born in a distant sea. The whales will rejoice the day the two kings reunite." This has always been interpreted as a reference to Shirahoshi, Poseidon, and Luffy. But here's where it conflicts with the mural's text. The mural repeats the phrase, "They were never able to meet." This suggests that two beings were supposed to reunite in the past but failed to do so. Then, in the present era, it says, "This time they will surely meet," which means that the ones meant to reunite 800 years ago never managed to do so. This raises a critical question. If the sea god in the Void Century was Poseidon, then the mermaid princess of that time failed to meet Joy Boy. If this is true, then the major turning point in the present story is that Luffy and Shirahoshi will succeed where their predecessors failed. But if the sea god is not Poseidon, then we are dealing with something entirely unknown. Theories about the sea god's true identity. Is it a completely new entity that we haven't met yet? Is the real sea god asleep somewhere in the ocean? Could it be the massive whale-like figure seen in the mural? This point is one of the biggest mysteries because it suggests we are missing a key piece of the story. If the sea god is Poseidon, then history is repeating itself with Shirahoshi and Luffy. But if it isn't, then there is someone else in the sea who could change everything. The big questions. We need answers. Has Oda been hiding an important character from us this whole time? Are there more ancient weapons than we know about? Is the sea god something that Imu or the world government have sealed away? There are too many unanswered questions, and the most likely scenario is that we'll start getting major clues about this mystery in the upcoming chapters. The sixth point, the national treasure of Mary Geoise and its connection to the Forbidden Sun. This is where the national treasure of Mary Geoise comes into play and how it might be directly linked to the Forbidden Sun. Context: what is the national treasure? The national treasure of Mary Geoise was first mentioned in Dressrosa, when Doflamingo hinted that there was something so important in Mary Geoise that, if revealed, the world government would collapse instantly. We never got a clear explanation of what it is, but Doflamingo left us with a key phrase: power rots. At the time, no one really understood what he meant, but when we connect this to the mural, everything starts to make sense. The theory: the national treasure is the Forbidden Sun. The Forbidden Sun, as mentioned in the mural, might have been a source of infinite energy that existed in the past. During the Void Century, the world government either stole this power or sealed it away for their own use. If this energy source has been hidden in Mary Geoise all this time, then the national treasure might be what remains of the Forbidden Sun. Why does this fit with what Doflamingo said? If the national treasure is actually an infinite energy source but has been dormant or deteriorating, then its power is literally rotting, just as Doflamingo described. This would also explain why Imu and the world government have kept Mary Geoise as their central base for centuries. Mary Geoise is not just their fortress, it's the place where they are guarding this power. The Forbidden Sun might be reactivated soon. In the third world text from the mural, it is written, "The sun will return and a new dawn along with it." If the Forbidden Sun is in Mary Geoise and has remained unused for centuries, this could mean that Imu is planning to reactivate it to destroy anyone who opposes the world government. The Egghead connection, Vegapunk's mother flame. In Egghead, Vegapunk created the Mother Flame, which is an energy source that seems to mimic something ancient. If Vegapunk based the Mother Flame on something that already existed, then the Forbidden Sun might be the original version of that energy. And if that's the case, how powerful is the national treasure of Mary Geoise really? The Lulusia incident, proof that Imu is already using this power. When Imu destroyed Lulusia, it was with a massive attack from the sky. The energy of this attack seems similar to the Mother Flame. This could mean that Imu is already using part of the national treasure's power to eliminate threats. Two possible truths about the national treasure. It is the Forbidden Sun in a sealed or deteriorated state, and the world government has been protecting it for centuries. It is an energy source that can be used as an ultimate weapon, similar to what we saw with Lulusia. Either way, this means that in the final climax of the series, the Forbidden Sun might be reactivated and become the key to the ultimate battle. The big questions moving forward. If Imu successfully activates it, will it become a threat to the entire world? Will Luffy and his allies stop Imu in time, or will they find a way to use it differently? What role will Vegapunk play in all of this now that he has created the Mother Flame? This is one of the most important points because it confirms that there is a hidden weapon or energy source that has existed for centuries, and in the present day story, it is about to become crucial. The 7th point, the mural connects to the present and the end of One Piece is already written. This is where everything starts to come together. The mural doesn't just talk about the past, it also predicts the future. This means that someone in history already knew what was going to happen, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Luffy is the one who changes everything in the Third World text. It says, "The sun god dances and laughs as he leads the world to its end." This is pure Gear 5. Oda has already confirmed that Luffy is the reincarnation of the sun god Nika, and now the mural is describing him exactly as we see him in the story. This means that history already predicted that Luffy will be the one to break the current system and trigger the grand climax of One Piece. The Forbidden Sun will return. The text also states, "The sun will return and a new dawn along with it." There are two possible meanings here. The Forbidden Sun, the infinite energy source, will be reactivated. Luffy/Nika will be the symbolic sun that brings the new dawn. Either way, this confirms that the world is heading toward a massive event that will change everything. The meeting that never happened in the past will happen now. Throughout the mural, the phrase "they were never able to meet" is repeated, but in the Third World text, it changes to "this time, they will surely meet." This confirms that what failed in the Void Century will finally happen in Luffy's era. The most obvious interpretation is that it refers to Joy Boy and Poseidon, Shirahoshi. In the past, Joy Boy made a promise to the Mermaid Princess, but he never fulfilled it. Now, Luffy and Shirahoshi might succeed where they failed, but there's another possibility. It could mean that the D-Clan and the allies of the Void Century will finally reunite and restore the ancient kingdom. Imu and the world government's final move. If the Forbidden Sun is real and still hidden in Mary Geoise, then Imu might activate it to maintain control over the world. This would connect to what happened in Luluzia, where an entire kingdom was wiped out by what seemed to be a pure energy attack. This sets up the final battle. The ultimate conflict could be about who controls that power, and that's where Luffy and his allies come into play. Fate is written, but this time it can change. The fact that the mural describes the future proves that Oda has had the ending of One Piece planned for years. But this time, things might be different, because the phrase, "this time, they will surely meet," implies that the cycle of the past is about to be broken. In the Void Century, Joy Boy and his people failed. Now, Luffy has the chance to do what they couldn't. Final conclusion. This mural isn't just a piece of ancient history, it's a literal prediction of the ending of One Piece. It tells us that Luffy is the chosen one who will change everything. The Forbidden Sun, or what it represents, will return. The meeting that never happened in the past will finally occur. The final battle between Luffy and Imu will be the ultimate clash between the past and the future. Oda has left us with this massive clue, and now all that's left is to wait and see how the climax of the story unfolds. Alright, let's dive into the first point and spice it up a bit. So, chapter 1136 of One Piece is where Oda really starts stirring the pot about Nika. Like, we're not just getting vague hints or shadowy figures this time. Nope. He's going all in. In this chapter, they drop a new image of Nika, and this one, way more detailed than the old school silhouette with a loincloth and a spear that we saw before. Now, Nika's decked out with a sword and shield, which is like, wait, what? Where did this come from? It's almost like Oda's teasing us, giving us these breadcrumbs of info about Nika just to watch us scramble for theories. And let's be real, he's probably laughing his head off while we're here connecting dots that might not even exist. But anyway, this chapter takes things up a notch, making it clear that Nika isn't just some simple idea or figure. There's depth, contradictions, and a whole lot of mystery. It's the chapter where you start thinking, okay, this isn't just about Luffy anymore. There's something bigger at play here. Alright, let's talk about the second point, because things get real messy here. In chapter 1136, we get this wild debate about who or what Nika actually is, and honestly, nobody agrees on anything. One dude's like, Nika is the god of the sun, while another's all, Nah, bro, he's the god of liberation. Then someone else chimes in, you're both wrong, he's the god of war. And to top it off, another guy's like, he's the god of laughter. Obviously, it's pure chaos. These characters are going back and forth with their theories, and you're just sitting there like, is anyone right, or is everyone just pulling stuff out of thin air? What makes it even juicier is the fact that this disagreement stems from some ancient divine text called Harley, which apparently no one can fully translate because it's written in some ancient language, so everyone's just interpreting it however they want. But the one thing they all do agree on, Nika is connected to the sun somehow. That's the one common thread, but everything else is up for grabs. It's like Oda's throwing out a giant puzzle and saying, good luck solving it, suckers. Alright, now let's get into the third point because this one's got some serious Osh-Teat vibes. So in chapter 1136, we learned something absolutely bonkers. Nika's been around during not one, but two world-ending events. Like every time the world's been absolutely wrecked, this dude or whatever Nika is shows up. Coincidence? I think not. The story lays it out. Nika's tied to these massive, game-changing moments in history. And what's wild is that everyone who's in power, yep, the big shots at the top, they're scared out of their minds about Nika making a comeback. Why? Because Nika's whole vibe is about freedom and hope. And let's be real, people in power do not like those words floating around. What's even cooler and kind of poetic is that Nika isn't just seen as some destructive force or a hero. He's this symbol for those who want to break free, for people craving liberation. He's got that whole light at the end of the tunnel energy, which is why folks rally around the idea of him. And then there's his look, dressed in white with flowing clouds, laughing like he doesn't have a care in the world. Honestly, Nika's whole aesthetic screams hope and rebellion. Alright, let's talk about the fourth point, because this is where the theories get wild. So apparently there's this popular idea floating around that Nika isn't just one person or entity. There might actually be multiple Nikas. Yeah, you heard that right. People are speculating that there are two, maybe even three versions of Nika. And here's where it gets spicy. Some folks think one of them could be Kurohige, Blackbeard, because of his freaking Yami Yami no Mi. The theory basically says that the Yami Yami could be another type of Nika power, like a dark counterpart to Luffy's Gomu Gomu, or well, Nika fruit. And then some fans have gone completely off the rails and suggested there's a third Nika connected to characters like Loki or even Imu. It's like everyone's lining up to get a piece of this God of the Sun action. What makes this idea stick is how different cultures in the story might interpret Nika. Depending on who you ask, he's a hero, a destroyer, or some kind of divine figure. So naturally people are like, what if there's more than one Nika out there, each with their own vibe and powers? And honestly, the theory kind of works. I mean, we've seen some insane stuff in One Piece, so having multiple Nikas doesn't feel that far-fetched. It's the kind of chaotic, plot-twisty thing Oda would absolutely do just to mess with us. Alright, let's hit the fifth point, and this one's got some real-world flavor to it. The theory draws a parallel between Nika and One Piece, and how gods work in different cultures IRL. You know, like how pretty much every culture has their version of a thunder god, Zeus, Thor, Raijin, you name it, but they're all kind of doing the same job. The idea is that Nika could just be one figure seen through the lens of different cultures in the One Piece world, with each group putting their own spin on him. For example, the Giants might see Nika as the god of war, because duh, they're all about fighting. Meanwhile, in Skypiea, he's the god of the sun, because sunlight's what keeps their crops growing and their society thriving. Over in Impel Down, they'd worship him as the god of liberation, since breaking out of chains is a pretty big deal for, you know, prisoners and slaves. And then there's the god of laughter, which totally fits with Nika's goofy, carefree vibe and that whole laughing out loud aesthetic he's got going on. The idea is super straightforward, but makes a ton of sense. Every culture in One Piece takes what they need from Nika's story and adapts it to fit their values and struggles. It's the kind of world-building detail that Oda excels at, making his world feel massive and diverse, where the same figure can mean totally different things depending on who's telling the story. Pretty cool, right? Alright, let's dig into the sixth point, because this one's all about keeping it simple and logical. Kinda rare in One Piece theories, right? So, instead of diving into the wild idea of multiple Nikas or crazy fruit conspiracies, there's a theory that says the differences in how Nika is described are because of different users of the same fruit over the centuries. Basically, the idea is that the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika has been passed down through time, and every person who's eaten it brought their own flair to it. Like, think about it. Joy Boy might have had the fruit back in the Void Century, and he used its powers in a way that fit his role in history. Then, over the years, others could have inherited it, each one leaving their mark. That's why you've got different images, one with a spear, another with a sword and shield, etc. It's like every Nika was the same base power, but their personal style and context changed the way people remembered them. This theory makes a lot of sense when you consider how ancient the One Piece world is. We're talking over 800 years of history here, so it's not crazy to think there have been multiple users of this fruit, each inspiring their own legends. It's a neat way to explain all the conflicting descriptions without throwing in wild twists like 3 Nikas or Kurohige is secretly Nika. It also keeps things grounded in the way devil fruits already work. You eat it, you get the power, and you become the new Nika. Simple, logical, and totally Oda-esque. He's the king of making something feel huge without overcomplicating it. Alright, here's my take on the 7th point, and honestly, I think this ties everything together in the cleanest way possible. Look, I love a good wild theory as much as the next person, but sometimes the simplest answer is the best one. To me, Nika is less about being some ultra-complex mystery with 3 versions or secret identities. It's about how Oda uses him to play with perception, history, and culture in the One Piece world. Here's what I think. Nika isn't meant to be this singular, fully defined figure. Instead, he's more of an idea, a symbol that shifts depending on who's telling the story. Every culture and time period interprets Nika differently because, let's face it, people project their values and fears onto the things they don't fully understand. That's why some people think of him as the god of liberation, while others see him as a destructive force, or even just the dude who laughs all the time. It's the same figure, but filtered through centuries of storytelling, bias, and cultural perspective. What's genius about this is that it mirrors real-world mythology. Just like Zeus, Thor, and Raijin are all thunder gods with their own cultural spins, Nika could be one figure interpreted 100 different ways. And honestly, this fits Oda's style perfectly. He's always about tying his world back to bigger themes like freedom, identity, and how stories evolve over time. So yeah, while the idea of multiple Nikas or crazy fruit theories is fun to think about, I don't think Oda needs to go that far. The simplest explanation, that Nika is one figure interpreted differently over centuries, feels way more grounded and honestly more impactful. It's the kind of storytelling twist that makes One Piece so much more than just pirates fighting each other. Luis Arnaut is introduced as an explorer whose importance, while initially seeming minor, gains significance as the details of his story and his connections in the world of One Piece are analyzed. This character is the author of Brag Men, a book that at first glance appears to be a collection of fictional tales, but has proven to be much more than that. For instance, in Little Garden, the descriptions match reality, suggesting that this book is not mere fiction, but an authentic record of his travels and discoveries. What is truly intriguing is how this book surfaces at key moments in the plot. In Ohara, during the island's destruction, it is revealed that Bragmen was part of the library at the Tree of Knowledge, a place where scholars researched ancient history and collected texts of great value. This hints that it is not just any book, but something even the scholars of Ohara deemed worthy of preserving. Later, we learn that many of these books were saved and moved to Elbaf, reinforcing the significance of Bragmen, now housed in one of the most important libraries in the world. Considering that Luis Arnaut was an explorer, it is logical to think that his book might contain valuable information, not only about the islands he visited, but also about places beyond what most characters in One Piece have reached. Although it is not explicitly mentioned that he documented anything related to the Poneglyphs, it is possible that he found a way to record routes or methods to reach otherwise inaccessible places, such as Laugh Tale, perhaps using encrypted language or a more subtle style. This could prove crucial in a story where much of the mystery revolves around how to reach this legendary island. The presence of Bragmen in Elbaf does not seem like a coincidence. Eiichiro Oda often leaves subtle clues that later connect to major revelations, and the reappearance of this book, along with the context of Luis Arnaut, suggests that the explorer may have played a more significant role in the secrets of the One Piece world. All of this makes both the book and its author seem like key elements in understanding upcoming events in the plot, especially regarding the mystery of Laugh Tale. Luis Arno is not only significant for having written the book Brag Men, but also for the possibility that his story is directly connected to Laugh Tale. While One Piece has shown us that reaching the final island of the Grand Line requires the 4 road poneglyphs, the idea that someone might have reached it through other means is an intriguing possibility. This is where the theory that Luis Arnote could have been one of those individuals comes into play. Although there is no explicit confirmation of when Luis Arno lived, his profile as an explorer and the description of his journeys in Bragmen raise the possibility that he might have reached Laugh Tale on his own, either before or after Joy Boy and Gul D. Roger. This would suggest that Laugh Tale might not be as inaccessible as it has been portrayed, and that someone with sufficient knowledge and determination could have discovered an alternative route. What's particularly interesting is that if Luis Arno did indeed reach Laugh Tale, it stands to reason that he left behind clues about how he did it. As an explorer, his work would have been to document his discoveries, and Bragmen might be precisely that record, albeit presented in a format that makes it seem like fiction. This aligns perfectly with Oda's storytelling style, where he masterfully introduces important elements subtly, only to highlight their significance later on. The fact that Bragmen appears in key locations like Ohara and Elbaf reinforces this idea. It's likely that while not a direct copy of what is inscribed on the poneglyphs, the book contains some form of encoded or indirect information that could help decipher the way to Laugh Tale. This might be as simple as a reference to a natural phenomenon, a specific route, or a pattern that only someone with the right tools could uncover. The possibility that Luis Arno reached Laugh Tale also raises intriguing questions about the control of information in the world of One Piece. If he truly made it there, his story might have been suppressed by the world government, much like they have tried to erase the poneglyphs and the history of the Void Century. This would further support the idea that Bragmen is not just a book of adventures, but a testament to something the world government sought to keep hidden. In this context, Luis Arno would not simply be another explorer, but a key figure in the history of One Piece. His connection to Laugh Tale, while unconfirmed, fits logically within the world Oda has built, and his legacy, embodied in Bragmen, could serve as a crucial tool for anyone seeking to unravel the series' mysteries. The possible connection between Luis Arno and his book Bragmen with Laugh Tale not only raises questions about the past, but also opens up new possibilities for the development of the One Piece storyline. If it is confirmed that this explorer left behind key information in his journal, its discovery could have direct implications for how the current characters compete to reach the final island of the Grand Line. For the Straw Hats, who have so far been following the traditional path of gathering the 4 road poneglyphs, discovering an alternative route through Bragmen could become an unexpected solution if obstacles arise in completing the poneglyphs. For instance, if Blackbeard or Shanks manage to get ahead and acquire all 4 before them, the Straw Hats would need to find another way. This is where Luis Arnot's book could act as a key to uncovering that alternative route, especially with Nico Robin leading the charge, capable of deciphering encrypted messages and finding connections beyond the obvious. On the other hand, this theory works in reverse as well. If the Straw Hats succeed in gathering all 4 poneglyphs, Bragmen could serve as a tool for other characters, such as Blackbeard or even Shanks, to discover an alternative path to Laugh Tale. This would create an intriguing dynamic in the narrative, with different groups using unique methods to reach the same destination, reflecting the diversity of approaches and abilities in the world of One Piece. What's fascinating about this idea is how Bragmen could act as a bridge between the past and the present, connecting characters who never directly interacted. Imagine, for example, that Luis Arno left a message in his journal describing his experience reaching Laugh Tale, or included a riddle that only someone with knowledge of the poneglyphs could solve. This would not only add depth to his character, but also highlight the importance of legacy and the transmission of knowledge in the series. The storytelling in One Piece is characterized by Oda's ability to introduce elements that seem like small details at first, but later become essential pieces of the larger narrative. Bragmen and Luis Arno fit perfectly into this pattern. The book could be the key to unraveling one of the series' greatest mysteries, while also serving as a narrative tool to explore different paths to Laugh Tale and build tension among the various groups competing to reach the final island. Ultimately, the role of Bragmen would not be limited to being a passive source of information. It could act as a catalyst for current events, offering both challenges and opportunities to the characters who discover and interpret it correctly. This reinforces the idea that Luis Arno and his legacy hold far greater significance than initially apparent. Elbaf is a key element in this theory, as it reintroduces both Luis Arnote and his book Bragmen at a crucial moment in the One Piece storyline. So far, Elbaf has been presented as a place of significant historical and cultural importance, home to the giants and one of the most prominent libraries in the world. The presence of the book in this context doesn't seem coincidental, but rather an intentional decision by Oda to emphasize its importance. The connection between Bragmen and Elbaf strengthens the idea that the book is not merely a collection of stories, but an artifact containing critical information for the world of One Piece. The library in Elbaf, which houses the books rescued from Ohara, becomes the ideal place for the Straw Hats to uncover clues that Luis Arnote may have left about Laugh Tale. The combination of Nico Robin's expertise with the poneglyphs and access to this book in the library could serve as the catalyst to unveil an alternative path to the final island. What's particularly intriguing is how this detail ties directly into the broader narrative of the One Piece world. Oda has constructed Elbaf as more than just another island. It's a place steeped in history, inhabited by a people with a deep connection to tradition and knowledge. The decision to include Bragmen in its library suggests that the book is more than a mere record of adventures. It is a text that the scholars of Ohara already deem significant enough to save during the destruction of their island. Furthermore, the introduction of Elbaf at this point in the story aligns with Oda's pattern of using key locations to connect different aspects of the past and present. Luis Arnote, a character previously known only through his book, gains a new level of importance by being associated with a place as foundational as Elbaf. This elevates the book to being not only a potential key to reaching Laugh Tale, but also a means of achieving a deeper understanding of the world and its history. Elbaf's role in this theory is not just as a backdrop, it is a setting rich with meaning. It represents a convergence of past knowledge, symbolized by the books from Ohara, and the present narrative led by the Straw Hats. This combination could unlock secrets that have been hidden since the beginning. Not only does this add depth to the One Piece world, but it also reinforces Elbaf's importance as a pivotal point in the story. Nico Robin's role in this theory is pivotal, as her ability to read the poneglyphs and her extensive knowledge of history make her the ideal person to interpret any hidden clues in Bragmen. If Luis Arnote's book truly contains information about how to reach Laugh Tale, Robin would be the one to connect the dots and decipher its message. Drawing on both her studies in Ohara and her experience with the poneglyphs the Straw Hats have encountered so far. What's intriguing is that Robin might not be the only one contributing. Other characters like Nami, with her exceptional navigation skills and photographic memory, could recall key details about the book from when they first saw it in Little Garden. This opens the possibility for the Straw Hats to collaborate in interpreting the content of Bragmen and solving the puzzle that could lead them to Laugh Tale. Their teamwork would highlight how each member's unique abilities play a vital role in the adventure. Additionally, Robin's connection to Saul, who was revealed to be alive in Elbaf, could add an emotional dimension to this part of the story. If Saul confirms that the rescued books contain critical clues or even mentions that Bragmen was instrumental in preserving Ohara's knowledge, it would further elevate the book's importance and strengthen Robin's personal connection to the story. This would not only motivate her to dig deeper, but also add a heartfelt layer to her pursuit. On the other hand, the possibility of other characters outside the Straw Hats, such as Blackbeard or Shanks, also finding the book and interpreting it differently creates an interesting contrast. While Robin and the Straw Hats would aim to use the information to complete their adventure with integrity, others might seek to exploit the contents of Bragmen for their own ambitions. This type of conflict would enrich the plot and add another layer of tension to the race for Laugh Tale. The inclusion of Bragmen and the role that Robin and the rest of the Straw Hats could play in interpreting it underscores the idea that knowledge, both historical and practical, is one of the most valuable tools in the world of One Piece. This not only reaffirms Robin's significance as a cornerstone of the crew, but also highlights how every member has an essential role in unraveling the series' greatest mystery. 1. Kaido's devil fruit was actually a dragon fruit. For the longest time, fans were convinced that Kaido had a devil fruit that turned him into a dragon. And yeah, turns out they were totally right. Technically speaking, his fruit is called the Fish Fruit Model Azure Dragon, which, let's be real, sounds weird as hell. A fish fruit? Really? But in classic Oda fashion, there's logic behind it. According to Japanese mythology, a koi fish that swims up a waterfall turns into a dragon. The hints were always there. Momonosuke, who ate an artificial version of the same fruit, had an obvious fear of heights, which people connected to the trauma of Kaido lifting him by the neck in front of Oden's castle. Plus, he always had a weird distaste for dragons, which made perfect sense once we found out his father was executed by the dragon himself, Kaido. When Wano finally revealed Kaido's full transformation, it was a huge told ya moment for the fandom. Oda had been dropping breadcrumbs the entire time, and the people who connected the dots were spot on. 2. Shanks has a twin brother. This theory had fans going crazy, and when it finally got confirmed, it made so much sense. For years, people debated whether there was more to Shanks than we knew. Then, a mysterious Shanks-looking guy met with the Gorosei, which immediately set off alarms. Some fans thought it was just our Shanks playing some kind of double game, but others started considering that maybe, just maybe, there were 2 of them. Then things escalated. The introduction of the Holy Knights showed one particular figure who looked exactly like Shanks. Fans later learned that this guy was actually Figureland Garling, Shanks' father. That revelation was wild enough on its own, but it fueled the twin theory even more. Then the final piece dropped. Shanks actually had a twin brother who was connected to the Holy Knights. It was one of those rare theories where fans weren't just making stuff up, they actually figured out Oda's setup. The idea of a good Shanks and a dark counterpart adds even more depth to the story. And now the question is, what does this mean for Luffy and the final battle? 3. Saul is alive. Back in the day when we saw Kuzan, Aokiji freeze Jaguar D. Saul on Ohara, it looked like a done deal. The guy was dead, but hardcore fans weren't convinced. Something about how that scene played out seemed off. The ice, the way Aokiji phrased things, and the general rule of if you don't see a body in One Piece, they ain't dead. Over time, tiny details popped up that hinted at Saul's survival. Some fans believed that Aokiji, being the complicated dude he is, might have secretly spared him. Then, boom. Years later, Oda confirmed it. Saul was alive and chilling in Elbaf, taking care of the remaining Ohara books. The moment Robin found out was straight up emotional. This theory was interesting because it went against the mainstream opinion. A lot of people mocked the idea at first, but in the end, the believers got the last laugh. And now, with the Straw Hats heading to Elbaf, Saul's survival might play an even bigger role in the final saga. 4th, Scopper Gaban is in Elbaf. For years, fans were wondering where the hell Scopper Gaban had disappeared to. We got Rayleigh, we got some tiny Roger Pirates flashbacks, but Scopper? Nowhere to be seen. Fans started narrowing down potential locations, and since he didn't show up in Wano, where a lot of old legends appeared, there weren't many islands left where he could be. So the best bet, Elbaf. And guess what? The theory turned out to be 100% on point. In chapter 1139, Oda finally confirmed that Scopper Gaban was in Elbaf, proving once again that fans know their stuff. What's even crazier is how long this theory had been floating around. People assumed he'd show up at some big moment, and now with Luffy getting closer to Elbaf, it looks like we're about to get some legendary Roger Pirates lore. This is one of those rare cases where fans predicted something based on pure logic. Oda's been super patient with revealing some old characters, but now that we're in the final saga, all the pieces are falling into place. 5. Momonosuke's devil fruit defect was just its color. When Momonosuke ate that artificial devil fruit made by Vegapunk back in Punk Hazard, everyone thought it was some kind of failure. Vegapunk himself even called it a mistake, so fans started speculating. What was actually wrong with it? At first it seemed like the fruit worked perfectly fine. Momo could turn into a dragon just like Kaido, he could make flame clouds and even breathe fire. So what was the problem? Well, nothing except the color. Instead of Kaido's blue scales, Momonosuke's dragon form was pink. That's it. That was the entire defect. Fans had actually guessed this a long time ago, saying that Vegapunk, being the obsessive perfectionist he is, probably considered it a failure just because it wasn't a 100% perfect copy of Kaido's fruit. And lo and behold, in Egghead, it got confirmed. When Vegapunk was asked about the fruit, he straight up said, "Was it pink? Yeah, that's the failure." This was one of those classic Oda trolling moments. He set it up like it was some huge deal, only for the twist to be hilariously petty. Fans absolutely nailed this theory, reading Oda's intentions perfectly. 6. Buggy became a Yonko, and it wasn't a joke. This is the perfect example of a meme turning into reality. For years, people jokingly said, haha, imagine if Buggy became a Yonko. But deep down, a few fans started to actually believe it. The dude had insane luck, managed to become a warlord despite barely doing anything, and had a way of stumbling into power without even realizing it. So, could it happen? Then Wano ended, and boom, Buggy was officially declared a Yonko. The whole fandom lost its mind. What started as a joke actually became real, and it made total sense in the wacky, chaotic world of One Piece. His connections, his accidental alliances, and his sheer dumb luck all lined up perfectly for the promotion. This moment showed just how unpredictable One Piece can be. Fans were laughing about it at first, but the moment it became canon, the laughter turned into sheer amazement. And now, people are even joking about Buggy becoming the Pirate King, and honestly, at this point, would it even be that surprising? Evan Lola was Big Mom's daughter. This one goes way back, all the way to Thriller Bark. At the time, it seemed like just another small moment in the story. Lola, the energetic pink-haired pirate, gave Nami a Vivre card and said, "If you ever need help, find my mom. She's a super powerful pirate." At first, people thought, okay, that's interesting, but who cares? Then we started hearing about Big Mom, one of the 4 Yonko, and fans began putting 2 and 2 together. If Lola's mother was a powerful pirate and Big Mom was a powerful pirate, what if they were the same person? Turns out the theory was right. Lola was Big Mom's daughter, and not just that. She was supposed to be a key player in a political marriage that Big Mom set up. Instead, she ran away, causing chaos within the Charlotte family. Once this was revealed, Thriller Bark's events gained a whole new layer of meaning. Oda had been dropping this clue for years, and fans who noticed it early got to celebrate a major victory when it was confirmed. 8. X-Drake was a Marine spy the whole time. From the moment X-Drake was introduced, something about him felt off. He was a former Marine who suddenly turned into a pirate and joined Kaido's crew. Yeah, that didn't add up. Fans quickly started theorizing that he wasn't actually a real pirate, but rather an undercover Marine working for a secret organization. And guess what? They were right. It turned out that X-Drake was part of SWORD, an undercover Marine faction that operates outside the standard rules of the Navy. He infiltrated the Beast Pirates and worked behind the scenes, gathering intel the entire time. Fans had called this from a long time ago, especially because of his father, Diaz Barrels, who had a similar shady background. Unfortunately, while this was an exciting reveal, it didn't end up being that impactful in Wano. Fans expected X-Drake's role to lead to something huge, maybe a major Marine intervention, but it never really happened. Still, the fact that the theory was completely accurate proves that One Piece fans have some serious detective skills. 9. Sanji came from a royal bloodline. Sanji was always a bit of a mystery. From the very beginning, he had little details in his story that didn't quite add up. Why was he so well-mannered? Why did he refer to himself as Mr. Prince back in Alabasta? Why did Kuma say he was the most important member of the crew during Thriller Bark? Fans put together the pieces and came up with a theory. Sanji was actually from a royal family. And guess what? It was spot on. Sanji turned out to be the lost prince of the Germa 66, a royal bloodline with insane technological advancements and a twisted family dynamic. His father, Judge, was a war-obsessed scientist who experimented on his own children, turning them into genetically enhanced super soldiers. Sanji was the only one who turned out normal, or as Judge saw it, a failure. So he was cast out. This theory showed how well Oda plans things ahead. The Mr. Prince nickname wasn't just a cool alias, it was actual foreshadowing. Fans who caught on to this detail long before it was confirmed were rewarded with one of the biggest backstory reveals in the entire series. Ten Sabo was alive. This was a big one. Ever since Sabo was killed in Luffy's flashback, a lot of fans refused to believe it. The moment he was supposedly blown up by that celestial dragon's cannon, some people went, yeah, he's not dead. For years, this was just a theory. Then as we got deeper into the story, little hints started popping up. The 3 cups of sake on Whitebeard's grave had fans buzzing. Some thought it was just a tribute to Ace and Luffy's past, but others saw it as a sign that Sabo was still out there. And then came Dressrosa. Not only was Sabo alive, but he had joined the Revolutionary Army and had become one of Dragon's top commanders. He even inherited Ace's Mera Mera no Mi, fulfilling a promise to carry on his will. This was one of those reveals that had an insane emotional impact. Luffy reuniting with Sabo after so many years was a tearjerker, and for fans who had been pushing this theory for ages, it was a massive win. However, it also reinforced a long-standing issue with One Piece. Fake deaths. Oda has a habit of bringing characters back after they're presumed dead, which has made it harder for fans to take death seriously. Even now, people joke that if you don't see a body, they're alive. And honestly, with how many times this has happened, it's not even a bad rule to follow. Void Century mural in One Piece, revealed in chapter 1138, has completely shaken the fan community. Since its appearance, everyone has been coming up with theories and interpretations about what it represents. But there is one key detail. Oda has fooled us all, or rather, he has left everything so ambiguous that it seems like we understand it, but in reality, we don't. To put it in context, the mural shows several figures facing what seems to be a demon holding a sun in his hand. Most fans have reached a similar conclusion. It depicts the war between Joy Boy and his allies against the world government. In other words, the great battle that took place 800 years ago during the Void Century. And up to this point, it all seems fine, like a classic good versus evil story. However, things are not that simple. Oda has been a master at leaving us clues over the years without providing clear answers. And with this mural, he may have done the same. Are we really seeing the story as it is, or just the version we've been made to believe? The problem with this mural is that it's extremely open to interpretation. The drawings are unclear, the accompanying texts don't say anything concrete, and the official history has never been fully revealed. This means that even though it seems obvious that we're witnessing the confrontation between the good, Joy Boy and his people, and the evil, Imu and the world government, there could be a different reading. In fact, there's something even more interesting. Over the years, Oda has introduced phrases and hints in the story telling us that the truth depends on the point of view. A clear example is Rayleigh in the Sabaody archipelago when he tells Robin that it's better for her to discover the history of the Void Century on her own because maybe she'll understand it differently. This makes it clear that the story is not as simple as we imagine. So can we really trust our first impression of the mural, or are we falling into the trap Oda has set for us over 20 years? Everything points to the fact that what we think we know might not be the absolute truth, and that the mural, instead of providing answers, has opened a door to more doubts and reinterpretations. Alright, speaking about the second point, Oda plays with ambiguity in a brutal way. This man hasn't given us a break in years, and with the Void Century, he's really enjoying himself. Literally, he hasn't confirmed who's good and who's bad, leaving us all like fools trying to figure out what's really going on. From the start, the narrative has always pointed to Joy Boy as the hero and the world government as the villains. But here's the thing, Oda has dropped hints suggesting that the story might not be so black and white. All of this is reflected in the dialogues he's been dropping throughout the manga. For example, we have that iconic moment in Sabaody with Rayleigh. When Robin asks him about the truth of the Void Century, Rayleigh tells her it's better for them to discover it for themselves because maybe they'll understand it differently. What is he trying to tell us with this? Basically, that the story we've been told could be different depending on who tells it. This is when you stop and think, what if everything we've believed until now is wrong? It's not the only time Oda throws us a bomb like this. Later on, Vegapunk also gets into the game during the Egghead arc. He mentions that he can't say who the good guys or the bad guys were in the story between Joy Boy and the 20 Kingdoms. I mean, the smartest scientist in the One Piece world won't even take a stance on it, making it clear that not everything is as simple as we thought. And to top it all off, in chapter 1138, just when we're shown the mural, Ripley says, maybe that drawing only represents the dream of a child. Can you believe that? Again, the same trick, leaving us wondering what's real and what's just an interpretation. Oda is playing a game of shadows. He's blindfolded us and thrown us into a maze of theories and assumptions. He's managed to make every fan see what they want to see in the story, without giving us an absolute truth. It's as if he's saying, guys, you thought you had it figured out, but in reality, you know nothing. So yeah, we're in his hands, trapped in this tangle of interpretations and symbols, trying to piece together a puzzle that might not even have a single solution. This is One Piece in its purest form, and Oda, as always, is several steps ahead of us all. Now let's dive into the third point, the reinterpretation of the mural. And this is where things get really interesting, because if we trust what we've seen so far, it seems like the mural is a visual account of the Great War of the Void Century, with Joy Boy and his allies facing Imu and the world government. Up until now, everything seems fine. It's the standard interpretation that almost everyone has come to. But here's the key question, what if we're seeing it wrong? What if Imu isn't the villain in this story, but someone who was protected protecting something. If we look closely, the first thing that stands out in the mural is that demonic figure holding a sun, which theoretically represents Imu, or the ancient authority of the world government. Around it, several races seem to be fighting against it: the Lunarians, the Fishmen, the Mink, and other historical factions. This gives us the feeling that this entity was the great enemy. But what if we change our perspective? Instead of seeing Imu as the villain, let's think of him as a guardian of an ancient source of energy, something so powerful and dangerous that its irresponsible use could have caused a worldwide catastrophe. Now imagine that Joy Boy and his allies wanted that energy to unify the world and improve everyone's life. But Imu, with the trauma of a past disaster, decided that no one could ever touch that source of power again. This is when the mural stops being just a good versus evil scene and turns into a conflict of ideologies. Imu didn't want to dominate the world for the sake of it. He was trying to prevent history from repeating itself, while Joy Boy and his people only wanted access to something that in their opinion would bring peace and prosperity. If this theory is true, the ancient kingdom could have been an advanced civilization that abused this power, leading to a collapse similar to Atlantis in our world. Imu, or whoever occupied that role back then, saw what happened and swore that it would never happen again, establishing the world government to prevent humanity from playing with fire. And Joy Boy? He may not have been a villain, but maybe he wasn't the hero we've been sold either. Perhaps his intentions were noble, but his desire to reclaim that ancient power would have once again put the world at risk. From this perspective, the mural isn't a story of the war between good and evil, but a reflection of a conflict between two sides with different but legitimate objectives. Oda has managed to make a simple mural make us rethink the entire story. He's left us with the feeling that we know what happened, when in reality, we only have one version of the events. And the worst or the best part of it all is that until he gives us concrete answers, any interpretation could be the right one. Now we dive into the fourth point, where things get even crazier. What if the world government isn't entirely evil? For as long as we've known, One Piece has presented the world government as the ultimate oppressive force, the definitive villains who have ruled the world for 800 years, manipulating history and eliminating anyone who tries to uncover the truth. And yes, they've done terrible things: the genocide of Ohara, the enslavement of entire peoples, the use of the Tenryubido as an abusive and deranged elite. All of this paints them as the undisputed bad guys. But what if things aren't that simple? Let's go with a key example: Rox D. Zabek. This character was completely erased from history, even more than Joy Boy himself. Why? Because he was a threat to the entire world. He wasn't just a powerful pirate, he was someone who sought total chaos, someone who, if not stopped, could have plunged the world into an era of total destruction. Now think about this: if the world government truly were the supreme and absolute villain, why erase Rox but allow Goldie Roger's story to continue? Why go to great lengths to hide some things but not others? The only explanation is that from their perspective, Rox represented such a great evil that even they, with all their corruption, couldn't afford to ignore it. This brings us to another idea. The world government, instead of being the bad guys, could simply be a necessary evil. Yes, they've committed atrocities, but maybe they've done so to avoid something worse. Think about it this way: what if the Void Century wasn't a war between oppressors and liberators, but between two equally destructive forces? What if Joy Boy, with all his greatness, was also a danger because his struggle could have brought about a new age of chaos? It's the same thing that happened with Akainu at Ohara. From our perspective, what he did was a horrible, unjustifiable massacre. But if you put yourself in his shoes, his logic was clear. If I let someone escape, the knowledge they carry could end up destroying the world. It's not that he enjoyed killing innocents, although, well, Akainu is a psychopath. But his extreme mentality led him to make a radical decision in the name of the greater good. So what if the world government sees the world in the same way? What if their oppression isn't simple evil, but an extreme measure to prevent greater destruction? This is where One Piece's story becomes much more interesting, because it stops being a simple heroes versus villains story and turns into a conflict of ideals. From the world government's perspective, their control over the world is the only way to prevent chaos from taking over everything. Yes, they enslave, destroy, and manipulate, but for them, that sacrifice is necessary to maintain stability. And the craziest thing is that, from their point of view, they are the good guys. Oda has made us believe for years that the world government is the absolute enemy, but with everything we've seen lately, what if they're just a necessary evil doing what they think is right to save the world? And here we reach the 5th point where everything explodes. What if in this story there are no good guys or bad guys? Look, for more than 25 years, One Piece has made us think that the central conflict is clear. The world government is the ultimate villain, and Joy Boy was the great liberator. But after everything we've seen with the mural, with Rayleigh's, Vegapunk's, and Ripley's ambiguous statements, and the way Oda is leaving everything up in the air, there's a possibility that many don't want to consider. What if all sides believe they are doing what's right? Think about it. From the pirates' perspective, the world government is an oppressive dictatorship that destroys entire civilizations to maintain its power. But from the world government's perspective, their absolute control is the only thing preventing the world from falling into chaos. It's the same logic Akainu uses. When he destroyed the Ohara ship, he didn't do it out of gratuitous cruelty. He did it because, in his mind, letting the scholars escape could mean the resurgence of ancient weapons and the end of the world. To him, killing those 10,000 people was a necessary sacrifice to avoid a global war. Is it horrible? Yes, but did it make sense from his perspective? Also now, let's apply that idea to the Void Century. Joy Boy and his people wanted an era of freedom and progress, without the world government's control. Imu and the 20 Kingdoms saw this as a threat and decided to impose an absolute order to prevent the world from collapsing. In this scenario, neither side is 100% good or 100% bad. They're simply forces with different ideals. Here, Oda is making a master move. From the beginning of One Piece, he's taught us to question the perception of good and bad. We grew up thinking pirates were villains, but then Luffy became the protagonist. We saw the Marines as justice, but then we have characters like Akainu who are willing to do anything in the name of that justice. We discovered that not all pirates are good, with people like Blackbeard, who is the purest representation of chaos. And now, with the world government and the ancient kingdom, maybe what we thought we knew about history is just another version of the facts. Oda has taught us not to trust appearances, and with this story, he's taking it to the extreme. Maybe when One Piece comes to an end, the big revelation won't just be what happened in the Void Century, but that history has always been a matter of perspective. Because at the end of the day, no one believes they're the villain of their own story. The first theory revolves around the possibility of Blackbeard stealing the ancient weapon Pluton, an event that could have a monumental impact on the progression of One Piece. Pluton, one of the 3 legendary artifacts of power, has been shrouded in mystery since its first mention. It is described as a weapon capable of destroying entire islands with a single shot. While it is commonly believed to be a ship, its true form has not been confirmed. In the Wano arc, it was revealed that Pluton is located in this region, sealed away and with its nature and appearance still undisclosed. Despite its enigmatic role, current events in the manga position the weapon as a key focal point for future conflicts. Blackbeard, known as the most opportunistic and calculating character in the series, has all the necessary elements to carry out this theft. During the events in Wano, the character Caribou was established as a critical piece in this puzzle. Caribou, who overheard details about Pluton's location, made it clear that he intended to share this information with someone powerful who could make use of it. The theory suggests that Blackbeard is the logical recipient of this information, given his relentless pursuit of power at any cost. Furthermore, his history of strategic moves and ability to exploit moments of weakness in his opponents makes him the perfect candidate to launch an attack on Wano. The current situation in Wano favors this possibility. Following the events of the arc, the region is in a transitional period, with many of its primary protectors absent. Yamato, who stayed in Wano, is occupied with a pilgrimage, which could further distract the region's defenders. Additionally, key figures like Luffy and Shanks are involved in other events outside Wano, leaving the territory vulnerable. Shanks' recent departure removes a major barrier, paving the way for Blackbeard to act. All of this suggests that Wano is in a critical position for a surprise attack. If Blackbeard succeeds in seizing Pluton, the repercussions would be immense. It would solidify his position as one of the greatest threats in the world of of One Piece, not just because of his strength and that of his crew, but because of the devastation the weapon could unleash. The theft of Pluton could serve as a turning point in the narrative, triggering events that lead directly to the final war. A scene in which Wano collapses as Pluton emerges from its confinement would be visually and narratively impactful. Upon realizing the gravity of the situation, Yamato might leave Wano to warn Luffy, setting the stage for a new confrontation between the Straw Hats and Blackbeard. Moreover, this theory has broader implications for the storyline involving the ancient weapons. If Blackbeard gains control of Pluton, he could directly clash with Poseidon's power, represented by Shirahoshi on Fishman Island. This would set up an epic duel between two ancient weapons, adding a new dimension to the final war and heightening the narrative tension. Blackbeard, known for his cunning and ability to manipulate others to achieve his goals, would use Pluton not just as a tool of destruction, but as a symbol of absolute power, further cementing his position as the series' most dangerous villain. Ultimately, the idea of Blackbeard stealing Pluton aligns perfectly with his character and recent events in the story. This occurrence would not only elevate him as a threat, but also set the stage for the climactic moments of the saga. The theory is not only plausible within the narrative framework, but also paves an exciting path for the future of One Piece. Should Blackbeard obtain Pluton, the balance of power in the world would shift drastically, and the series would delve into a realm of conflict on an unprecedented scale. The second theory centers on the long-anticipated revelation of Im-sama, a mysterious figure whose identity and role have been teased throughout the story of One Piece. This theory proposes that 2025 might be the year when we finally see Im-sama's face and learn their true name, adding a pivotal piece to the series' lore. While the complete backstory of Im-sama may be withheld for the final saga, the mere act of revealing their identity would mark a monumental turning point in the narrative. Over the past few years, One Piece has provided hints and built anticipation around Im-sama's existence. Events like the Reverie have connected various characters and plot points, such as Nefertari D. Lily and the history of the Void Century, to Im-sama. Additionally, the introduction of the Holy Knights and Sabo's discovery of secrets within the Holy Land have brought the narrative closer to unveiling this enigmatic figure. These developments suggest that the time is ripe for Oda to reveal Im-sama, at least partially, during this critical stage of the story. The significance of revealing Im-sama's face and name lies in its potential to reshape our understanding of the series' overarching conflict. The theory suggests that this revelation could occur as a cliffhanger towards the end of the year, aligning with Oda's pattern of delivering major plot twists at the close of a calendar year. For instance, the last chapter of 2024 introduced the concept of Shanks' brother, a detail that shocked fans and set the stage for future developments. Similarly, revealing Im-sama's identity would not only heighten the stakes, but also leave fans speculating about the implications of this new information. Im-sama's revelation could also serve as a prelude to uncovering the deeper mysteries of the Void Century. While the series has gradually provided glimpses into this era, Oda has been cautious about revealing too much too quickly. By introducing Im-sama in a controlled manner, perhaps by showing their face, giving their name, or revealing their connection to certain characters, Oda could maintain the narrative's momentum while preserving key secrets for the saga's conclusion. The mere act of seeing Im-sama's face would invite a flood of questions. Is their identity someone we've encountered before? Are they connected to the Nefertari family or another prominent lineage? Such questions would ignite fan speculation and enrich the ongoing story. Furthermore, this theory aligns with the current arc's thematic focus on the Void Century and the final stages of the One Piece narrative. The Straw Hat crew is venturing further into uncharted territories, where conflicts with the world government are inevitable. Im-sama's revelation would be a logical progression, providing context for the government's actions and their central role in the series' climactic events. In conclusion, the revelation of Im-sama's face and name in 2025 would be a pivotal moment in One Piece, offering fans a tantalizing glimpse into the series' deepest mysteries. This development would not only tie together years of foreshadowing, but also set the stage for the final conflict, where the secrets of the Void Century and the true nature of the world government will come to light. If handled with Oda's trademark storytelling finesse, this revelation could become one of the most iconic moments in the history of One Piece. The third theory revolves around the potential destruction of Elbaf, a pivotal moment that could redefine the trajectory of One Piece. This theory suggests that Elbaf, the land of the giants, may face total annihilation as part of a large-scale attack orchestrated by the world government. Such an event would not only serve as a visual and narrative spectacle, but also act as a crucial turning point in the series, highlighting the world government's overwhelming power and setting the stage for the final conflict. Elbaf has long been anticipated as one of the most important locations in One Piece. It is a land rich in history, mythology, and cultural depth, tied closely to themes of the Void Century and the ancient weapons. The giants are portrayed as the strongest warriors in the world, and their homeland represents a bastion of immense military power. However, this power also makes them a target for the world government, which views Elbaf as a threat to its global dominance. The theory posits that the government, having failed to control or negotiate with the giants, might resort to using one of its most devastating assets, the ancient weapon Uranus, believed to be in their possession. The theory builds on the precedent set by the destruction of Lulusia, where a mysterious weapon was unleashed, obliterating the island in an instant. This event demonstrated the sheer destructive capability of the world government and established a precedent for them using such power to eliminate perceived threats. In the case of Elbaf, the weapon could be used to destroy the Tree of Adam, the massive structure that sustains the giant kingdom. Imagining a scene where the weapon is activated, sending bolts of energy that ignite and collapse the colossal tree, creates a powerful visual of chaos and despair. Castles and fortresses would crumble, the land would sink into ruins, and the giants, despite their strength, would be powerless to stop the devastation. The destruction of Elbaf would serve multiple narrative purposes. First, it would illustrate the world government's ruthlessness and willingness to use overwhelming force against even the most formidable adversaries. Second, it would provide the giants with a compelling motivation to join forces with the Straw Hat crew and their allies in the inevitable final war. The attack could mirror the mythological Ragnarok, with the giants rallying to seek vengeance against the government, symbolizing the awakening of a long-dormant power. Additionally, this event would offer a stark reminder of the stakes involved in the struggle against the world government. By destroying a place as revered and powerful as Elbaf, the government would solidify its role as the ultimate antagonist, emphasizing the urgency of the rebellion led by the Straw Hats, the Revolutionary Army, and other factions. The loss of Elbaf would not only be a tragedy for the giants, but also a rallying cry for all those oppressed by the government's tyranny. The timing of this event would depend on how Oda structures the Elbaf arc. If the arc is lengthy, the destruction might occur closer to its conclusion, potentially spilling into the next year. However, given Oda's ability to accelerate or decelerate pacing as needed, it is plausible that the destruction could occur in 2025, marking a climactic moment that sets the tone for the final phases of the story. In conclusion, the destruction of Elbaf is a theory that combines thematic depth, narrative progression, and breathtaking visuals. It positions the world government as an unrelenting force of destruction while giving the giants and the Straw Hat crew a shared purpose in their fight for freedom. The fall of Elbaf would not only be a testament to the government's might, but also a rallying point for the series' heroes, paving the way for the ultimate showdown in One Piece. The fourth theory revolves around the potential revelation of Joy Boy, a figure shrouded in mystery and central to the lore of One Piece. This theory suggests that 2025 might be the year when we finally get a significant glimpse into Joy Boy's identity, perhaps through the unveiling of his face, his name, or even a flashback that sheds light on his role during the Void Century. This moment would be monumental, tying together years of foreshadowing and offering new insights into the series' central themes. Joy Boy has been a key figure in One Piece ever since his name was first mentioned in relation to the Void Century and the Poneglyphs. Over time, we've learned fragments of his story, including his connection to the promise made to Fishman Island and his ties to the legendary treasure, One Piece. However, much about him remains unknown, including his physical appearance, his true role in the events of the Void Century, and the full scope of his legacy. The theory posits that Elbaf, a land steeped in ancient history and myth, could serve as the perfect setting for these revelations. Elbaf has already been hinted to have a deep connection to ancient history, with ties to Norse mythology and the legend of Ragnarok. Given its cultural richness, it is highly likely that the land of the giants holds crucial information about Joy Boy, perhaps through ancient records, oral traditions, or monuments. The giants, with their long lifespans, might even have direct knowledge passed down from those who lived during the Void Century. This setting provides a unique opportunity for the story to explore Joy Boy's past, while maintaining its thematic focus on legacy, promises, and the weight of history. The theory suggests that we might see Joy Boy in a variety of ways. This could range from a brief flashback that offers a glimpse of his life during the Void Century to a more detailed exploration of his deeds and connections to other characters. For instance, his ties to the ancient weapons, the Kazuki clan, or the origins of the D clan could be highlighted. Alternatively, Oda might choose to reveal Joy Boy's face or name without delving too deeply into his backstory, leaving room for further exploration in future arcs. One of the most compelling aspects of this theory is its timing. Oda has a pattern of gradually introducing major revelations, giving fans just enough to speculate without resolving all mysteries at once. In recent arcs, we've seen hints of Joy Boy's significance, such as Luffy's transformation into the sun god Nika, and the connections between ancient mythology and the Straw Hat's journey. By continuing this gradual build-up, Oda could use 2025 to provide a significant but controlled revelation about Joy Boy, setting the stage for even greater discoveries later in the series. This theory also ties into the broader themes of One Piece. Joy Boy represents hope, freedom, and the enduring power of promises, all of which are central to the series' narrative. Revealing more about him would not only deepen our understanding of the story's past, but also provide context for the present conflicts and the stakes of the final war. Moreover, it would connect the Straw Hats' journey to a legacy that spans centuries, reinforcing their role as inheritors of Joy Boy's will. In conclusion, the revelation of Joy Boy in 2025 would mark a major milestone in One Piece. Whether through his face, name, or a flashback, this moment would illuminate key aspects of the Void Century and provide a deeper understanding of the series' most enduring mysteries. Elbaf, with its ancient traditions and ties to Joy Boy's era, is the ideal setting for this revelation, making this theory both plausible and incredibly exciting. If handled with Oda's usual narrative precision, the unveiling of Joy Boy would not only answer long-standing questions, but also set the stage for the climactic chapters of One Piece. The fifth theory delves into the dramatic possibility of Luffy being captured by the world government or the Marines, an event that would echo the emotional and narrative impact of Ace's imprisonment and execution in Marineford. This theory suggests that at the end of the Elbaf arc, the government could succeed in apprehending Luffy, setting the stage for a massive global conflict that could mark the beginning of the final war in One Piece. The idea of Luffy's capture has been a recurring speculation among fans for years. It was first suggested during the Wano arc, where some theorized that the Marines might capture Luffy after his victory over Kaido. Similar ideas resurfaced during the events in Egghead, where the Gorosei and the world government became more aggressive in their pursuit of the Straw Hats. Now, with the Elbaf arc in progress and the involvement of the Holy Knights, the theory gains new plausibility. The stakes are higher than ever, and the world government has shown increasing desperation in their efforts to neutralize threats to their power, particularly figures like Luffy, who embodies the will of Joy Boy and the D Clan. The potential capture of Luffy would be a game-changing event for multiple reasons. First, it would highlight the world government's recognition of Luffy as a critical threat. By this point, Luffy is not just a pirate, but an emperor, a wielder of the sun god Nika's powers, and a symbol of rebellion against oppression. His capture would send shockwaves throughout the world, cementing his status as the central figure in the fight against the world government. This act would also provide a catalyst for various factions, such as the Revolutionary Army, the Giants of Elbaf, and even Shanks or Cross Guild, to unite against the government in a bid to rescue him. The theory suggests that the capture could occur during or shortly after the events in Elbaf. Elbaf is poised to be a climactic arc, potentially involving significant battles, the revelation of ancient secrets, and the introduction of new alliances. The Giants of Elbaf, if they recognize Luffy's efforts in saving their homeland or aiding them in their struggles, would be deeply affected by his capture. This could motivate them to join forces with the Straw Hats and their allies, further escalating the conflict. Additionally, the involvement of the Holy Knights and figures like Garling Figureland introduces a level of power and strategy that could make Luffy's capture plausible, even with his current strength. A captured Luffy would create narrative parallels to Ace's imprisonment in Impel Down and his eventual execution at Marineford. However, this time the stakes would be even higher. The rescue mission would likely involve not only the Straw Hats, but also their extended network of allies, including the Grand Fleet, the Revolutionary Army, and potentially other pirate crews. The event could lead to a massive confrontation, possibly even a second Marineford, where the world government's forces clash with an unprecedented alliance of rebels and pirates. Moreover, Luffy's capture could serve as a powerful emotional and narrative device. It would test the resolve and unity of the Straw Hats while pushing characters like Zoro, Nami, and others to their limits. It would also provide an opportunity for characters like Dragon and Sabo to take center stage, showcasing their roles in the rebellion against the world government. The event could also draw in wild cards like Blackbeard, who might exploit the chaos for his own gain, or Shanks, whose long-standing connection to Luffy could finally bring him into direct action. In conclusion, the capture of Luffy by the world government in 2025 would be a monumental event that sets the stage for the final war in One Piece. It would create an emotional and narrative parallel to Ace's capture while raising the stakes to unprecedented levels. The rescue mission, involving allies from across the world, would be a spectacle of unity and defiance against tyranny. This theory not only fits within the series' narrative trajectory, but also offers a compelling path toward the climactic chapters of One Piece. The central idea of this theory presents something that at first glance seems far-fetched, but with the arguments presented, it could make some sense. Monkey D. Dragon and Rox D. Zebek might be the same person. In other words, the mysterious leader of the Revolutionary Army, known for challenging the world government, could actually be the legendary captain of the Rox Pirates, who decades ago terrorized the seas with a feared and powerful crew. The theory is based on the idea that although these two characters appear completely different in their circumstances and goals, there is a deeper connection that could link them. On one hand, we know that Rox was an ambitious pirate who directly confronted the Celestial Dragons and the world government, which is also a defining trait of Dragon's mission in the present. On the other hand, the fact that we have never seen Rox's face opens the door to all kinds of speculation about his true identity. The intriguing point here is not just the potential connection between these two characters, but also the fact that One Piece's narrative has portrayed Dragon as someone who operates in the shadows, leading a revolutionary movement while little is known about his past. This, combined with the mystery surrounding Rox's disappearance at God Valley, creates the perfect space to consider that these two characters could be two sides of the same coin, with a drastic change in motivations and methods after that event. This premise raises important questions. What would cause someone like Rox to change course and become Dragon? What happened at God Valley that not only transformed him into a new figure, but also led him to completely conceal his previous identity? These are the mysteries that the theory seeks to explore, presenting the possibility that Dragon is the continuation of Rox, albeit with a renewed and perhaps redeemed focus. To understand why this theory holds some ground, we first need to delve into who Rox D. Zebek was, and why his figure is so significant in the world of One Piece. This character led one of the most terrifying and powerful crews in history, the Rox Pirates, a group that, to give you an idea, included titans like Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, and even the infamous Captain John. In other words, not only was Rox feared, but he must have possessed extraordinary charisma and power to gather and command such monstrous individuals. The Rox crew was unlike any other. These pirates were not comrades, but a group of extremely ambitious individuals who worked together because they shared common interests, primarily power and treasure. However, their reign didn't last forever. 38 years ago, in a place known as God Valley, the crew was destroyed in an epic confrontation against Gall D. Roger and Monkey D. Garp, who temporarily allied to stop them. This event marked the end of the Rox Pirates, and it is presumed that Rox himself died in the battle, along with the disappearance of the island itself. What's curious is that, despite Rox's historical importance, we have never seen his face. All we have are silhouettes or vague details, but no clear image. This detail doesn't seem accidental, as in One Piece, the mystery surrounding certain characters often serves a narrative purpose. This has led to theories like this one, suggesting that Rox's identity might have been repurposed in some way, giving rise to someone new, Monkey D. Dragon. Another key detail is that, after the fall of the Rox Pirates, the remaining members went their their separate ways and became legendary figures such as emperors and great pirates. However, there is virtually no record left of Rox himself. This reinforces the idea that if he survived, he must have gone into hiding or assumed a new identity, which aligns perfectly with the narrative of this theory. In summary, Rox was such a significant and feared figure that his mysterious disappearance, along with the fact that we have never seen his face, makes him the perfect candidate for the theory that he might have adopted a new life as Dragon, a man whose ideals seem to echo the ambitions Rox might have had at his peak. The theory doesn't stop at merely proposing the idea, it also attempts to justify how it could be possible for Rox and Dragon to be the same person. One of the key points it addresses is the age difference between the two characters, which initially seems problematic. Currently, it is known that Dragon is 55 years old, while the fall of the Rox pirates occurred 38 years ago. This would mean Rox was 17 years old at the time, something that doesn't align with the idea of him leading such a powerful group of pirates at such a young age. To resolve this issue, the theory turns to Jewelry Bonnie's devil fruit, which allows her to alter a person's age. According to this hypothesis, during the battle at God Valley, Rox didn't die as believed. Instead, his age was reverted to 17 years old thanks to Bonnie's fruit, enabling him to disappear from the world government's radar. This would also explain why there is so little trace of his existence. If he was believed to be dead and physically unrecognizable, there would be no reason to continue searching for him. Another point that supports this idea is that Bonnie isn't the only user of a devil fruit with permanent age-related effects. Shinobu, for instance, has a fruit that can age objects and people irreversibly, leaving open the possibility that Rox's rejuvenation might also have been permanent. This would have given him the chance to start a new life under a different identity, that of Monkey D. Dragon. The theory also doesn't ignore the change in ideals. Rox was seen as ambitious, but his true motivations have not been revealed. The hypothesis suggests that his goals weren't as selfish as they seemed, and that he might have had intentions similar to Dragon's, overthrowing the world government and liberating the oppressed. The fall of his crew could have been the catalyst for reevaluating his approach, abandoning the pirate path to lead a global revolution under a new banner. In this context, Bonnie's devil fruit would not only explain the age discrepancy, but also serve as the starting point for Rox to transform into Dragon, the revolutionary we know today. One of the most intriguing aspects of this theory is how it addresses the relationship between Dragon and the Monkey family, particularly his connection to Garp and Luffy. In One Piece, familial relationships are often a central theme, and this hypothesis attempts to provide an explanation that, while complex, aligns with the known pieces of the puzzle so far. The theory suggests that Dragon might not actually be Garp's biological son, which would explain why they don't resemble each other physically. Instead, it proposes that Garp had a daughter, Luffy's mother, who married Dragon. According to this idea, after Garp's daughter passed away, Dragon adopted the monkey surname as a symbolic gesture, maintaining the family lineage and carrying on the name. Another version of the theory suggests that Dragon might not even be Luffy's biological father, but rather an adoptive figure or someone who cared for him from afar. This would fit with the fact that Dragon was never present in Luffy's life, but still showed an interest in protecting him, such as when he sent Ivankov to Marineford to help save him. This type of relationship is compared to characters like Kuma and Bonnie, where there's no direct blood connection, but there is an emotional or moral bond driving their actions. These ideas also attempt to explain the physical and personality differences between Dragon and the other members of the monkey family. On one hand, Luffy and Garp are much more extroverted and carefree, while Dragon is reserved, serious, and strategic. This reinforces the notion that Dragon might not come directly from Garp's biological line, but has taken a place within the family due to external circumstances. Finally, these theories add another layer to the mystery surrounding Dragon, a character about whom very little is known. While the theory is speculative, it offers a possible reason for Dragon's distance from the monkey family and his almost obsessive focus on the revolution, a complex past as Rox, and the need to protect Luffy from the consequences of his actions. This, at the very least, would justify why Garp and Dragon appear to have a distant relationship and why Dragon has remained on the sidelines, both in his son's life and in his supposed father's. As with any theory, criticisms and doubts are inevitable, and this one is no exception. While the idea that Dragon and Rox Dizabek are the same person has some intriguing aspects, it also faces significant issues that are hard to overlook. Two of the most questioned points are the temporal inconsistencies and the family relationships. The first major obstacle is the issue of age. Although the theory attempts to justify Rox's rejuvenation through Jewelry Bonnie's devil fruit, this remains speculative. So far, it hasn't been confirmed in One Piece that the effects of her fruit can be permanent, especially when applied to someone else. Moreover, while the manga has shown other cases of abilities that alter age, such as Shinobu's fruit, it's unclear if these properties work similarly, leaving an important logical gap in this hypothesis. On the other hand, the mystery surrounding Dragon's family also raises unanswered questions. For instance, if Dragon isn't Garp's biological son, why would he carry his surname? And if he isn't Luffy's real father, how can his interest in protecting him be justified beyond a simple symbolic or moral bond? These narrative gaps are points that the theory tries to address, but doesn't manage to resolve convincingly, leaving room for its viability to be questioned. Another detail that complicates accepting this idea is Rox's character and ideals, which have been presented as ambitious and willing to work with extremely dangerous individuals to achieve his goals. Although the theory suggests that Rox might have had a more altruistic background, this seems to contradict the image the manga has built so far. Rox's transformation into Dragon would require not only a physical change, but also a radical personal evolution, something that, while possible, would be difficult to justify without resorting to forced explanations. Finally, the fact that Eiichiro Oda has never shown Rox's face or delved deeply into Dragon's past might simply be a narrative choice to maintain the mystery, without any direct connection between them. While the lack of details fuels theories like this, it could also mean that both stories are intended to develop independently. In conclusion, although the theory offers creative solutions to these inconsistencies, many of them feel too speculative and rely on assumptions that haven't been confirmed in the story. This doesn't completely invalidate the theory, but it does cast doubt on its viability within the One Piece canon. Honestly, this theory feels like a bit of a roller coaster to me. When I first heard it, I thought, wait, could this actually happen? The idea that Dragon and Rox might be the same person is definitely intriguing and even exciting, but I can't help but notice some issues that make me doubt it's something Oda would really do. On one hand, I can't deny that connecting two such mysterious characters has its appeal, thinking that someone like Rox, who led such a feared group of pirates, could have completely changed his life and become the revolutionary dragon is the kind of plot twist that would break the internet. Plus, the fact that we've never seen Rox's face and that Dragon's backstory is so unexplored makes the pieces seem to fit, at least on a surface level. It's one of those moments where you think, maybe there's something there. However, being realistic, I feel like there are too many things that don't quite add up. For example, the idea of rejuvenation with Bonnie's fruit feels a bit too forced. Sure, in the world of One Piece, anything is possible, but it's hard for me to imagine Oda using something so specific to justify this connection. And if Rox really did have ideals so similar to Dragon's, why would he have associated with such ruthless pirates like Big Mom or Kaido? That part always leaves me scratching my head. Then there's the family aspect. To me, one of the most important elements in One Piece is how relationships between characters are handled, especially family bonds. If Dragon isn't really Garp's son, or if his connection to Luffy is more symbolic than biological, wouldn't that have been hinted at more clearly by now? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it feels like a big departure from what the manga has shown us so far. Despite all this, I have to admit I love the idea of Oda surprising us with something like this. I can already imagine the uproar in the community if it turns out that Dragon and Rox are the same person. It would be insane. Even though I personally don't think it's something that will happen, I wouldn't mind at all if Oda decided to include this twist, as long as it's done in a way that doesn't feel forced or like a cheap plot device. In conclusion, I think this theory is more of a fun exercise for fans than something that's actually going to happen in the story. But hey, with Oda, you never know. For now, I'm choosing to stay skeptical, but open to being surprised. Who knows? Maybe we're closer to a giant revelation than we think. Look, to be honest, after going through the entire theory, I'm torn. On one hand, I can't deny that it has some interesting points, but on the other, it feels like there are way too many loose ends. Now, if we're talking about the actual likelihood of this happening in One Piece, I'd say it's pretty low. But then again, we're talking about Eiichiro Oda, and he's capable of surprising us in ways no one expects. The first thing that comes to mind is that, for this theory to work, Oda would have to weave everything together with surgical precision. Connecting Rocks and Dragon as the same person would mean rewriting a significant part of One Piece's history. Not just the events at God Valley, but also how the characters have been portrayed up until now. Honestly, I'm not sure if it'd be worth complicating things that much when the story is already rich and compelling on its own. Also, when I think about it logically, Dragon has all the potential to be an incredible character without needing to be the rejuvenated version of Rocks. He's a revolutionary leader, someone who challenges the world government and has built a movement capable of changing the world. That alone makes him fascinating enough without adding such a convoluted connection to Rocks. For me, it would be far more impactful to see how Oda develops his story independently, diving into his relationships with Luffy, Garp, and the Revolutionary Army. That said, I won't lie. If Oda decided this theory was true, it would be a massive shock. Imagine the fan reaction to discovering that Dragon has been Rocks all along. It would be one of those jaw-dropping moments that everyone talks about for weeks, but it would have to be executed perfectly, because otherwise, it could feel like an unnecessary twist or a cheap way to surprise the audience. In the end, while I'd love to see Oda pull off something like this, I still think it's unlikely. This theory has intriguing ideas, but it also leans heavily on speculation and tying together loose ends that maybe don't need to be tied. Personally, I'd rather enjoy the mystery surrounding Dragon and Rocks as separate characters, but hey, if this turns out to be true, I'm not going to complain. On the contrary, I'll be there enjoying the chaos this would cause in the community. Who knows what else Oda has up his sleeve? Mystery no one saw in the One Piece mural. Alright, let's talk about a detail in the One Piece mural that most people overlooked but doesn't make sense if you really think about it. Seriously, this is something that once you see it blows your mind because it simply doesn't fit with the story we've been told. The mural, which was revealed in chapter 1138, supposedly depicts an event from 800 years ago, meaning from the Void Century. So far so good, right? But if we take a closer look, there's a major problem. Why does Nika appear instead of Joy Boy? Yes, exactly. The mural should be representing an event from 800 years ago, and we all know that Joy Boy is from that era. Oda has confirmed it multiple times, and yet, what we see in the mural is Nika. But wait, it gets even stranger. Joy Boy and Nika seem to be two different figures. Oda has shown us Joy Boy at different moments, like in Vegapunk's discussion or Imu's flashback, and at no point does he carry a sword or a shield. But in the mural, Nika is holding a shield and a sword, just as he was previously depicted in Elbaf. So why is Nika in the mural and not Joy Boy? Two possible explanations, and neither is reassuring. One, Oda messed up. Yes, it sounds odd, but it could be a simple drawing mistake. Maybe Oda meant to depict Joy Boy and accidentally included Nika instead. But realistically, this is unlikely. We're not talking about just any random sketch. This is one of the first visual details we've been given about the Void Century. This doesn't seem like the kind of mistake Oda would make in such a crucial moment of the story. 2. The mural is a deception. This is the most likely option. What if the mural is designed to mislead us? Maybe Oda put it there on purpose to make us think something that isn't actually true, as if he's telling us, don't trust what you see here, something doesn't add up. And what about the Straw Hat? This is where things get even stranger. Joy Boy has always been associated with a straw hat. In fact, in Imu's flashback, we see what appears to be his silhouette wearing the iconic hat. But in the mural, there's no sign of the straw hat. Could he be carrying it on his back, like Luffy sometimes does? There's no indication of that. The drawing doesn't show it anywhere. So why is it missing? It could be a simple omission, but considering how meticulous Oda is with these details, it makes us wonder if something deeper is happening here. The timeline problem. The strangest thing about all of this is that the mural clearly indicates that it represents an event from 800 years ago. We know this because it shows Imu, the character who coexisted with Joy Boy during that time. If Imu is in the mural, and we know they are from the Void Century, then this confirms that we're seeing something from that era, not another time period. So why is Nika there instead of Joy Boy? Logically, Nika should be something that comes after Joy Boy, not something from his era. It's as if the mural has been altered or is incomplete. Or worse, it's as if Oda is hiding something fundamental about the relationship between Joy Boy and Nika. Possible solutions to this mystery. Joy Boy was never an individual, but rather a title or a broader concept. Oda has given hints that Joy Boy may not have been just one person, but rather a lineage or an ideology passed down over time. Perhaps what we see in the mural is a reinterpretation of Joy Boy in the form of Nika, rather than his original version. Nika and Joy Boy are the same, but have different names. It's possible that Joy Boy was called Nika by some cultures and Joy Boy by others, similar to how historical figures can have different names depending on the era and context. However, the issue with this theory is that Oda has depicted Joy Boy and Nika as distinct figures. The mural was deliberately altered. This is something we can't rule out. If the mural is a historical record located in an important place, maybe someone modified it to confuse future generations. Could it have been the world government? Conclusion: something doesn't add up. This mystery is one of the strangest we've seen in One Piece. The mural is there, clearly showing what appears to be an event from the Void Century, but with a character who shouldn't be there at that time. If Joy Boy lived 800 years ago, why isn't he in the mural? And if Nika is there, then what happened to Joy Boy? The fact that there's no clear answer makes this mystery even more puzzling. Oda has left us with a puzzle piece that doesn't fit the rest of the story we know. This mural could be a key clue to something we still don't understand about the relationship between Joy Boy and Nika. Or perhaps it's a deliberate deception meant to make us believe something that isn't actually true. Either way, it's clear that something strange is going on here, and in the future, we're going to find out what this mural is really hiding. The four gods and the mystery of Imu. Who are they really? Alright, now it's time to dive into another major mystery left by the One Piece mural, the four gods. This is something that had already been mentioned in the series, but the mural has brought it back into the spotlight in a way that forces us to ask a very important question. What the hell is going on with Imu? Let's break it down step by step because this is about to get interesting. The four gods and their connection to Skypiea in the world of One Piece. We've heard about four legendary gods: the sun god, the forest god, the earth god, the sea god. This concept was introduced in Skypiea, though at the time we didn't give it much importance since it seemed like just another piece of world mythology. But now, with the mural, Oda is telling us, hey, this is important. The connection to the mural is obvious because it directly references these gods. And most importantly, we definitely know the identity of at least one of them. The sun god is Nika. This is confirmed. The giants have mentioned it. It's been brought up multiple times in the series, and now the mural reinforces it. Nika is the sun god. So far, so good. But now comes the problem. Who the hell is Imu? For a long time, there have been theories about Imu's true identity, the figure that rules from the shadows in One Piece. Some believe they might be immortal, others thought they could be an ancient member of the ancient kingdom. But with this mural, things have become even stranger, because Imu seems to fit multiple of these gods at the same time. When Imu first appeared in the manga, they were in a room surrounded by plants, butterflies, and trees. This led many people to think they could be the forest god. But wait, there's more. If we analyze the name Imu and read it backward, we get Umi, which in Japanese means sea. Is Imu the sea god? Because if that's the case, then Oda has been dropping this clue since the beginning, and nobody noticed. But there's yet another possibility. In Skypiea, we saw a statue of Bert, the supposed earth god, and this statue looks incredibly similar to Imu's silhouette. So here comes the big question. Which of the gods is Imu? 3 options and no clear answer. The craziest part of all of this is that none of these options can be completely ruled out. What if Imu is all 4 gods at the same time? Now, here's where things get truly bizarre. If we look at everything Imu has done in the story, they don't seem to control just one thing. They seem to control everything. They rule the world from the shadows, decide who lives and who dies, seem to have access to weapons of mass destruction, and we haven't even seen their true power yet. So what if Oda is telling us that Imu isn't just just one god, but represents all four. Think about it. They have a connection to the forest. Their name suggests a connection to the sea. Their appearance links them to the earth god. And if they have a hidden power, they could be connected to the sun god as well. This would be a genius move by Oda. He has given us hints that Imu is each of the gods, but he hasn't confirmed any of them specifically. So what does all of this mean? If Imu is one of these gods, or all of them at once, this completely changes the history of One Piece. Because if you think about it, the great conflict of the past could have been a battle between Nika, the sun god, and the god who controlled everything, Imu. And here's the big question. Are the other three gods allies of Nika or of Imu? If Imu truly represents the sea, the earth, and the forest, then Joy Boy and his people were fighting against the gods of the world. But if that's not the case, then there are three other gods who haven't yet appeared in the story, and they might be Luffy's allies in the final battle. Conclusion: we're being deceived. One thing is clear, Oda has built a massive puzzle with this theme, and we still don't have the pieces to solve it. But there is one thing we can be sure of. Oda is playing with us. He has given us just enough information to suspect that Imu is a god, but he has left hints that they could be any of the remaining three. So until he reveals the truth, all we can do is keep analyzing the clues and wait for the moment when Oda drops the big reveal. And when he does, it'll definitely be something no one saw coming. The mystery of the fire serpent. What does it really represent? Now, let's dive into one of the strangest details in the One Piece mural, one that has been mentioned but still doesn't have a clear answer. We're talking about the fire serpent. If you look closely at the mural, there's a gigantic serpent breathing fire at what seems to be either a giant or a bird. It's a striking scene, but what's curious is that it's not clear what it represents or what its true meaning is. Of course, the One Piece community has come up with tons of theories to explain what the hell this serpent is. Some are more logical, while others are completely wild. Here, we'll go over the three most important ones. Theory 1. The serpent is the fossilized red line. This theory has gained a lot of popularity. The idea is that the red line is not a natural formation, but the fossilized body of a gigantic creature that turned to stone over time. At first glance, it sounds spectacular. If you look at it, the red line is a massive rocky formation that divides the One Piece world into 4 seas. And we know that colossal creatures exist in this world, so it wouldn't be crazy to think that in the past, there was a being so huge that it formed a structure like the red line. The problem with this theory, there's evidence in the manga that contradicts it. When Nami analyzes the red line up close, she explains that it's not a single solid body, but a collection of islands fused together. Not only that, but each island has its own climate and magnetic field, something that wouldn't make sense if it were the fossil of a single creature. If the red line were a single fossilized body, it would logically have the same climate and properties throughout, but Nami confirms that this is not the case. So while the fossilized red line theory sounds amazing, it seems unlikely based on the information we have so far. Theory 2. The serpent represents Monkey D. Dragon. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Some fans have noticed that the serpent in the mural has markings on its body that look very similar to the scars on Dragon's face. If you look closely, the serpent has X-shaped marks on its sides, a detail that strongly resembles the tattoo that Dragon has on his face. This has led to the theory that Dragon has a mythical Zoan devil fruit that allows him to transform into a legendary serpent. We know that Dragon is a crucial figure in the story, but he's remained in the shadows for most of it. We also know that he almost certainly has a devil fruit, but Oda has never revealed what it is. Some people believe he has the Thunderbird fruit, a mythical creature that controls the weather. But if the fire serpent in the mural is related to him, then we might be looking at an entirely different type of mythical Zoan, something far greater and more dangerous than we imagined. This theory makes sense because Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, and at some point he will play a key role in the story. If his power is represented in a mural that depicts the Void Century conflict, that would mean Dragon is part of a struggle that has existed for centuries. Theory 3. The serpent is the egg from Roger's ship. This is a less popular theory, but some fans still support it. If you remember, Gul D. Roger's ship had a gigantic egg on board, and it was never explained. The idea here is that the egg contained a legendary creature that hatched at some point and might be the fire serpent in the mural. The interesting part about this theory is that we don't know what happened to that egg. Roger never explained what it was. The egg mysteriously disappeared after Roger reached Laugh Tale. If the mural is showing events from 800 years ago and this serpent was part of that battle, then it could mean that the creature inside Roger's egg is a reincarnation reincarnation or modern version of this ancient entity. Does this theory make sense? It's hard to say. The biggest issue with this theory is that there's no concrete evidence that the egg on Roger's ship hatched, or that it's related to the Void Century at all. It's an interesting idea, but until Oda gives us more information, we can't confirm any real connection. So what is the fire serpent really? Right now, there's no clear answer. Oda has given us this image in the mural, but hasn't explained what it represents. What is clear though, is that this isn't just decoration. It's an important clue about the past of the One Piece world. If I had to bet on one of these theories, I'd lean toward the dragon theory. Why? He is the only present-day character with a major connection to the world government. He seems to have a hidden power that hasn't been revealed yet. If the mural depicts a legendary creature resembling his mark, it could mean that dragon is the modern reflection of something that existed 800 years ago. What does this mean for the future of the story? If the fire serpent is connected to dragon, that would imply that he is far more important than we've imagined. He may not just be a revolutionary fighting against the world government. His very existence could be part of a cycle that has repeated for centuries. If this is true, Dragon could play a crucial role in the final battle of One Piece, facing off against Imu and revealing the true meaning of the fire serpent in the mural. For now, all we can do is wait for Oda to give us more pieces of the puzzle. But one thing is certain, that serpent is not there by accident, and when we finally discover its true identity, it will completely change the way we see the history of One Piece. The great absence in the mural. Where is Blackbeard, and what role will he play in the story? This is where things get truly interesting. So far we've talked about the gods, the fire serpent, the strange presence of Nika instead of Joy Boy. But there's something even stranger about this mural. Blackbeard is nowhere to be seen. And that's really weird, because if the mural depicts the most important battle in One Piece history, the War of the Void Century, and if we're seeing figures like Imu, Nika, and others, why is one of the most important characters in the series missing? At first glance, you might think that he simply has nothing to do with the past, but that explanation doesn't make sense narratively, and here's why. If Blackbeard isn't in the mural, it means he still has a major role to play throughout One Piece. Blackbeard has been presented as the ultimate villain of the series. From his introduction in Mocktown, to his betrayal of the Marines, to capturing Ace, to conquering Impel Down, to stealing Whitebeard's fruit, and most recently his plan to turn Hachinosu into an officially recognized nation, everything points to him building something massive. If Oda has spent so much time developing him, it's impossible that his story would just fade into the background. But there's something that makes this mystery even more intriguing. What if Blackbeard replaces Imu? This is the big theory, and it makes a lot of sense. Think about it carefully. The mural shows a battle from 800 years ago between the ancient kingdom and the world government. The logic tells us that in the present timeline, Luffy represents Joy Boy / Nika, while Imu is the modern equivalent of the Void Century's enemy. If that's the case, then what Oda is showing us is a conflict that is set to repeat in the present story. But here's where things take a turn. If the mural depicts a past event, that means the war of 800 years ago already had a resolution. If Oda simply repeats the same conflict with the same protagonists, it wouldn't have any narrative impact. The audience already knows how the first war ended, so watching the same thing happen again would be boring and predictable. So what if Oda throws in a major twist? What if Blackbeard kills Imu and takes their place? Blackbeard's grand plan, becoming king of the world. There's something most people haven't noticed, but it's crucial. For a long time, Blackbeard has been working in the shadows towards something much bigger than we think. We know he kidnapped Pudding, which means he's interested in the Three-Eyed Tribe's ability to read the poneglyphs. We know he wants to turn Hachinosu into an official nation, which suggests he's trying to infiltrate the world government system. And we also know that he is the only person in history who has been able to consume 2 devil fruits, meaning there is something about his body that makes him different from everyone else. All of this points to the idea that Blackbeard doesn't just want to be Pirate King. His true ambition is to become the king of the world. If Oda follows his usual narrative patterns, it's very likely that Blackbeard will face off against Imu and defeat them. Many people believe Imu will be Luffy's final enemy, but after analyzing the mural and what Oda has been building up, it makes way more sense that the real final villain is Blackbeard. Why? Because Blackbeard is the exact opposite of Luffy. Luffy represents freedom. He follows his own path and doesn't depend on anyone. Blackbeard is a master manipulator. He exploits the world's systems for his personal gain. And most importantly, Blackbeard breaks the rules of history. Since the beginning, Oda has established certain rules in the One Piece world. A person can only have one devil fruit. Blackbeard broke this rule. There was a battle 800 years ago, and history seems set to repeat itself. But what if Blackbeard breaks the cycle? If Blackbeard manages to kill Emu and take their place, then we wouldn't just be seeing a repeat of history. We'd be witnessing a completely new era of chaos, with a villain unlike anything we've seen before. One who has no loyalty to the past and rewrites history on his own terms. Conclusion: Blackbeard's biggest move is yet to come. If Blackbeard is missing from the mural, it's not because he's unimportant, it's because he hasn't stepped into his true role yet. Oda has been building him up for years, showing that he is unpredictable, cunning, and always 2 steps ahead. If this theory is correct, then Blackbeard's moment hasn't arrived yet. But when it does, it will change everything we thought we knew about the ending of One Piece. And when that moment comes, Luffy won't just have to face the world government, he will have to confront the greatest threat in pirate history: the great mystery of the Void Century. How the hell did Joy Boy lose? Alright, so far we've talked about a lot of weird things in the mural, from the absence of Joy Boy to the identity of the gods, the fire serpent, and Blackbeard's role. But now it's time to tackle the biggest mystery of all. How the hell did Joy Boy lose? Think about it. From what we know, Joy Boy was the leader of a massive alliance. He wasn't alone in his fight against the world government. He had all the races on his side: the giants of Elbaf, the samurai of Wano, the merfolk and fishmen, led by Poseidon, probably other ancient clans and tribes. On top of all that, they had advanced technology, ancient weapons, and knowledge of the Void Century. They had everything. They were the most powerful force in the world at the time, and yet they lost? Something doesn't add up. Was Emu alone, or did they have a super weapon? If we look at the mural, Emu doesn't seem to have an army. There aren't thousands of soldiers or fleets of ships around them. What we see is a lone figure holding something that looks like a sun. So if Emu didn't have a massive army, how did they defeat Joy Boy's entire alliance? The most logical answer is that they had a weapon of mass destruction, something capable of wiping out entire civilizations in a single shot. And yes, I'm talking about the same weapon we saw in the Lulusia incident. Emu's weapon, a more powerful version of the Lulusia attack. For those who don't remember, in recent chapters of One Piece, we saw Lulusia get completely erased from the map in seconds. The sky darkened, a strange glow appeared, and in an instant, Lulusia ceased to exist. What we saw wasn't a normal explosion, it was an attack of biblical proportions. Now, if Emu can do this in the present, imagine what they could have done 800 years ago when they had access to the original Void Century technology. Because we need to remember something crucial: the technology from before the Void Century seems to be far more advanced than what exists today. Vegapunk has stated that ancient knowledge surpasses modern science by a huge margin. That means that the weapon that destroyed Lulusia is probably just a weaker or incomplete version of the original. In other words, Emu might have had an even more powerful version of this weapon in the past. If this is true, then what happened in the Void Century was a mass extermination, a complete purge of Joy Boy's kingdom and his allies. A weapon like this would explain how Emu, without a visible army, could completely wipe out Joy Boy's civilization. Why didn't Emu use the weapon from the start? This raises another huge question. If Emu had this weapon, why wasn't Joy Boy defeated instantly? If we look at what happened in Lulusia, the attack was immediate. There wasn't even a major battle, just one shot and it was over. If Emu's weapon was that powerful, why was there even a war? Here are some possible explanations. 1. The weapon wasn't ready at first. Maybe Emu and their allies needed time to activate the weapon or figure out how to use it at full power. Maybe the war lasted a long time because the weapon wasn't fully operational at the start. 2. The ancient kingdom had a shield or defense system. It's possible that Joy Boy's civilization had a way to counter the weapon at first, a type of protection system or a method to neutralize the energy of the attack. But over time, that defense was broken or destroyed. 3. The weapon had a massive cost. Maybe Emu's weapon couldn't be used repeatedly. Perhaps it requires an enormous amount of energy or has time limitations. This would explain why it wasn't used constantly throughout history. Either way, what's clear is that when it was finally used, the result was catastrophic. Could this happen again in the present story? Here's where things get really interesting. If the Void Century War ended with this weapon, what does that tell us about the future of One Piece? It suggests that Oda is setting the stage for history to repeat itself, but with a twist. It's very likely that at some point, Imu will try to use the weapon again to eliminate Luffy and his allies. And here's a brutal possibility. What if Imu tries to use the weapon on Elbaf? Think about it. Elbaf is the most powerful nation in the world. The giants are now siding with Luffy. If the world government wants to make a statement, Elbaf is the perfect target. If Imu uses the weapon against Elbaf, we could see a Lulusia level event, but on a much bigger scale. This wouldn't just raise the stakes for the final war, it would give the giants a massive reason to fully commit to fighting the world government. Conclusion: the final battle will depend on who controls this weapon. After everything we've analyzed, it's clear that this weapon of mass destruction holds the key to both the Void Century and the final battle of One Piece. If Joy Boy lost, it wasn't because he lacked strength or allies. It was because Imu had an absurdly powerful weapon that not even an entire army could stop. And if history is about to repeat itself, then the real question isn't whether Luffy can beat Imu in a fight. It's whether he can prevent this weapon from being used again. Because if he fails, the fate of the current era could be the same as the Void Century. So now, it all comes down to this. Can Luffy and his allies break the cycle and change history? Or will they witness another mass extinction? Oda has the answer in the upcoming chapters. But one thing is certain, when we finally learn the truth about this weapon, the entire history of One Piece will change forever.
Alright, welcome back everybody for another deep dive. You know we love to dig into those fan theories that really get you thinking.
Yeah.
And today we've got one that, well, it really reimagines Usopp's potential power-up in the Elbaf arc.
Interesting.
So, get ready. We're diving deep into the world of One Piece. And we're going to be using this document that you sent over called Corrected Usopp Power-Up for Elbaf.txt.
Okay, Elbaf, the Island of Giants. You know, it's fascinating how this location, just steeped in legend and brimming with these formidable warriors, might actually hold the key to unlocking Usopp's true potential.
Exactly. We're all waiting for him to, finally step up and become that brave warrior of the sea that he always talks about. But let's face it, the recent chapters in this Elbaf arc are really showing him struggling. Remember when even just a giant cat creature had him on the ropes?
Yeah, it's a stark contrast to the power levels that we're seeing, from the monster trio.
Whoa.
And it really emphasizes how urgent it is for Usopp to level up, especially because Elbaf is the islands that he's been dreaming of visiting since the Little Garden arc.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like his proving ground.
Yeah.
So this document, kind of explores all the popular theories about how Usopp could get stronger.
Okay.
I mean, Habaki seems like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
He's dabbled in observation Habaki before, even pretended to have Conqueror's Haki during the Wano arc.
Right.
But the author of this document argues that Habaki alone might not be enough. And it might not even really suit his fighting style.
I think that's a valid point. When we consider Usopp's primary role as a sniper, it makes sense that his upgrade should really complement his existing strengths.
Yeah.
Strategic thinking, trickery, long-range attacks, simply boosting his physical strength wouldn't really do him justice.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. This document proposes a pretty out-there theory. Usopp upgrading his arsenal with Miss Goldenweek's color trap paint. Remember her?
Oh yeah, from the Little Garden arc.
Yeah, she used those hypnotic paints to manipulate emotions.
Color trap paint is a fascinating concept. It's a subtle form of psychological warfare that we haven't seen a lot of in One Piece. But it has the potential to be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Especially in the hands of someone like Usopp.
I know, right? It's like, what if instead of just hitting people with explosives, he starts messing with their heads? The author kind of links this theory to Usopp's emotional nature.
Okay.
His struggles with fear, his incredible loyalty to his friends, and even his surprising resilience to Perona's negative hollow in Thrillerberg.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he was the only one unaffected because he was already so negative himself.
That's a clever connection. It suggests a certain resistance to mental manipulation, and perhaps even an aptitude for it. It'd be interesting to see Oda explore the concept of emotional resilience as a form of strength in One Piece.
Now, to really kind of get into this theory, we need to revisit Miss Goldenweek's post-Alabasta cover story. A lot of fans overlook those cover stories,
Right.
but they often hold these valuable clues about the world and the characters.
You're absolutely right. Those cover stories often introduce elements that later become relevant to the main plot. In Miss Goldenweek's case, we see her color trap abilities kind of evolving beyond simple emotional manipulation.
For example, she befriends this giant pteranodon using the yellow-green of friendship, basically taming it with paint. And then she uses Betrayal Black to control Marines, forcing them to do her bidding. These examples alone show that color trap paint can affect a wide range of individuals, even powerful ones. Imagine Usopp painting a giant with runaway red or something.
Now, let's not forget the Rainbow of Dreams. This technique is truly bizarre. Miss Goldenweek creates a giant rainbow, and it allows people to temporarily embody their deepest desires. It even changes their clothes.
Whoa, wait, that's nuts. We see this happen to Crocodile in the cover story,
Yeah.
and he's furious about it.
It's a fascinating detail. It suggests that deep down, Crocodile still yearns for the title of Pirate King, even though he publicly claims to have moved on. But more importantly, the Rainbow of Dreams showcases the sheer potential of color trap paint to manipulate someone's will and actions. Imagine Usopp using this technique to turn enemies against each other or to force them to make tactical blunders.
Think about the implications for combat. It wouldn't just be about raw power. It'd be about disrupting your opponent's perception and judgment. It would be a perfect counter to someone like Van Augur, Blackbeard's sniper, who relies heavily on observation halaki for his long-range accuracy. Imagine Usopp painting the battlefield with illusions, making it nearly impossible for Van Augur to target him accurately.
It would level the playing field in a way that aligns with Usopp's strengths as a strategist and a trickster. And consider this, even if Usopp didn't want to use color trap offensively, he could use it defensively, creating a psychological barrier around himself and his allies. Perhaps painting his allies with courage yellow to enhance their bravery, or even using paint to camouflage themselves more effectively.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. It's not just about direct attacks. It's about using psychology to control the flow of battle.
Right.
Now, the big question is, how does Elbaf fit into all of this?
Well, the document points out several interesting connections. First, remember how the very beginning of the Elbaf arc was shrouded in illusion and misdirection? It felt like stepping into a fairy tale world where perception was unreliable.
Oh, yeah. But what if Elbaf is inherently linked to illusions or altered states of consciousness? And that's why color trap paint would be particularly effective there.
It's an intriguing possibility. And remember, Django's hypnotic powers come from a mushroom.
Oh, yeah.
Could Miss Goldenweek's paint be derived from a similar source? We know Elbaf has lush jungles with unique flora and fauna.
You're right. Elbaf could easily have some rare plant or fungus with hypnotic properties. It would be a perfect way for Usopp to discover and learn about color trap paint organically within the arc.
And thematically would make sense. Elbaf is steeped in Norse mythology, where illusions and trickery are common themes. It's the perfect setting for Usopp to embrace a fighting style that relies on deception and mental manipulation.
Expert speaker. Okay, I'm getting really excited about this color trap idea, but there's one big question. Where does Miss Goldenweek fit into all of this? I mean, she isn't exactly hanging out in Elbaf right now, as far as we know.
That's where this document gets really interesting. It points to a few clues that suggest a possible comeback for Miss Goldenweek. First, her cover story doesn't just showcase, her expanded color trap skills. It also positions her for a return to the main story.
Okay.
Think about it. Nearly every cover story in One Piece eventually ties back into the main narrative.
You're totally right. CB9 Caribou, even Enel's crazy adventure on the moon, they all came back in some way. It's like Oda is playing this long game, setting up these seemingly minor events that have a huge payoff down the line.
Exactly. And in Miss Goldenweek's case, her cover story ends with her opening a new Spider's Cafe. Yeah. On a desert island with some of her former Baroque Works comrades. Yeah. Interestingly, we recently saw Miss Goldenweek on a desert island again, in a message from Vegapunk. This message, shown in chapter 1115, basically reveals that Vegapunk has been secretly communicating with various figures around the world.
Whoa. So Oda is definitely dropping hints here. It's not just a random coincidence that she's on a desert island again. It feels very deliberate, like a setup for her return.
And let's not forget that part of Baroque Works has already joined the Cross Guild. It wouldn't be surprising if the rest of them followed suit, especially with the world in such turmoil.
And remember her epithet, Flag Bearer of Freedom. I mean, that seems way too significant. For a character who's just going to fade into obscurity,
right, it
suggests she has a bigger role to play, perhaps even in the fight against the world government.
Yeah.
Talk about foreshadowing.
It definitely adds another layer of intrigue. It's like Oda is saying, Pay attention to this character. She's going to be important later. Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about Usopp's father, Usopp, the legendary sniper of the Red Hair Pirates.
Oh man, Usopp. We've only seen glimpses of his power, but that one scene where he casually destroys a ship with a single shot was insane. Talk about setting a high bar for Usopp to live up to.
It definitely establishes the potential for incredible marksmanship in one piece. And let's not forget Van Augur, one of Blackbeard's commanders, who's also considered a top-tier sniper. Usopp's going to need a serious edge if he wants to compete with those guys.
Right. But this document makes a good point that just giving Usopp more firepower wouldn't be true to his character. He's not a brute force kind of fighter.
Right.
He's all about strategy, trickery, using his environment to his advantage. That's where color trap paint really shines. It allows him to outsmart opponents who might be physically stronger than him.
Exactly. Imagine Usopp using color trap paint to turn his enemies against each other or to create illusions that distract them long enough for him to land a crucial shot. It would be both hilarious and awesome to see those strategies play out in a battle.
Oh, I can already picture the reactions from the other Straw Hats. Luffy would be completely confused. Zoro would probably just shrug it off. And Sanji would be trying to figure out how to use the paint to his advantage with the ladies.
It's those moments of character interaction that really bring One Piece to life. But beyond the humor, there's also a deeper layer of symbolism at play.
Okay.
This document delves into the meaning of the Rainbow Bridge in Norse mythology, where it represents not just a physical connection between realms, but also hope, transformation, and the pursuit of the impossible.
That totally fits with Usopp's journey throughout One Piece. He's always striving to overcome his fears, to become braver, to achieve things that seem out of reach. And what could be more symbolic of that than literally building a bridge to the sky?
It would represent a culmination of his growth, both as a fighter and as a person.
Yeah.
And it would be a fitting tribute to Mont Blanc Noland, who was punished for believing in something that seemed impossible to others.
Yes, Usopp could be the one to vindicate Noland, to prove that dreams, no matter how outlandish, are worth fighting for. Who knows? Maybe Elbaf will even reveal a deeper connection between Usopp and Noland, perhaps through a shared ancestry or some other hidden link.
Now, there's one more intriguing connection that this document brings up.
Okay.
Remember the symbol of Nika, the mythical warrior god, that Luffy's devil fruit awakened into?
Yeah, the symbol of liberation and joy. I remember it vividly.
Well, Nika is usually depicted holding a spear and a sword. But what if that spear is actually a giant paintbrush?
Whoa, that's a wild thought. But you know, the tip of a paintbrush does resemble the spear in the Nika symbol. And considering all this talk about art and creativity in relation to color trap paint, that's not entirely implausible.
Exactly. It could be a subtle hint from Oda, suggesting a deeper connection between the power of Nika and the creative potential that Usopp might unlock. Perhaps there's a hidden link between the warrior god of liberation and the ability to paint a new reality.
That's a really cool idea. It would add another layer to the whole concept of inherited will and the idea that certain abilities and destinies are passed down through generations. What if Usopp is unknowingly carrying a piece of Nika's legacy through his artistic talents and his potential to wield color trap paint?
It's definitely food for thought. It highlights the interconnectedness of everything in One Piece. Every detail, every symbol, every character interaction could hold a deeper meaning, a clue to the grand mysteries that Oda is slowly unraveling.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about Usopp's struggles, the potential of color trap paint, the clues pointing to Miss Golden Week's return, the symbolism of the Rainbow Bridge, and even a possible connection to the legendary Nika. But where do we go from here? What kind of Elbaf journey awaits Usopp based on all of this?
That's the beauty of it. We can speculate, theorize, and analyze all we want. But ultimately, it's up to Oda to reveal the full picture. What's clear from this deep dive is that there's so much more to Usopp than meets the eye. He's not just the comic relief or the cowardly sniper. He's a complex character with hidden depths, a dreamer constantly striving to become something more.
And I think that's why so many fans are invested in Usopp's journey. You know, we see a bit of ourselves in him, that desire to overcome our fears, to reach for the impossible, to become the heroes of our own stories.
Absolutely. It's that relatability that makes him such a compelling character. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to throw one final thought, something that wasn't explicitly mentioned in the document, but that's been kind of swirling in my mind.
Ooh, I love a good cliffhanger. Lay it on me.
What if Usopp's mastery of color trap paint goes beyond combat?
Okay.
What if it allows him to tap into a deeper understanding of human nature, the power of emotions, the very forces that shape our perceptions and actions.
Whoa, that's deep. I mean, we've seen how color trap can manipulate emotions, but could it also be used to heal? To inspire? To foster understanding and empathy? Could be a tool for connection rather than just conflict?
Exactly. Imagine Usopp using color trap paint, not as a weapon, but as a tool for peace, reconciliation, for bringing people together.
That's a powerful image. It would be a radical shift from his current role as a sniper, but it would also be a natural progression of his character arc. He's always been the one to see the good in others, even his enemies. He's the heart of the Straw Hats, the one who reminds them of the importance of compassion and forgiveness.
And in a world that's increasingly divided, a world on the brink of war and chaos, maybe that's the kind of hero we need, someone who can bridge the gaps between cultures, ideologies, even entire worlds, someone who can paint a brighter future one stroke at a time.
You know, that actually ties back to the Nika symbolism we were talking about earlier. Nika represents liberation and joy. And what could be more liberating than breaking free from hatred and fear? What if Usopp's mastery of color trap paint allows him to unlock that same joyful, unifying energy?
That's a fascinating connection. It speaks to the deeper themes of One Piece. Breaking down barriers, finding common ground, believing in the power of dreams to change the world.
So as we eagerly await the next chapter in Usopp's Elbaf journey, let's hold on to that hope, that possibility. Even in the darkest of times, there's always room for a splash of color, a touch of whimsy, and a belief in the power of imagination to create a better tomorrow.
And who knows, maybe Usopp's journey will inspire us to do the same, to embrace our own creativity, challenge our limitations, and build bridges where others see only obstacles.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling one of the biggest mysteries in the One Piece world.
Oh yeah.
It's a question that's been bugging fans for ages. What happens if someone eats 2 devil fruits?
Yeah, it's a question that goes way beyond just simple curiosity.
Right.
It really makes us think about, like, what are these devil fruits all about? And the whole power system of One Piece, really.
Absolutely. Now, for any of you out there who might be landlubbers, you know, newer to the Grand Line, let's do a quick recap.
Okay.
Devil fruits, these crazy looking fruits.
Yeah.
They give you awesome powers. But the catch is...
Big catch.
Once you take a bite, you become a hammer.
You're a hammer.
And can never swim again.
Never swim again. That's a big deal in a world of ocean.
A huge trade-off.
It is. It is. And that's where this whole, like, risk and reward thing comes in, right?
Likely.
You could get powers like controlling fire, or turning into a lightning bolt, or, like, even becoming a giant Buddha.
Right. Or a jacket.
You could turn into a jacket, anyone.
Or
balls.
Balls. Lots and lots of balls.
Lots and lots of balls, yeah.
Not exactly the most intimidating power.
No, not really.
So the point is, even just eating 1 devil fruit is a gamble.
Huge gamble.
With some pretty unpredictable results.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get.
So the idea of eating 2.
2, that's where things get really interesting.
Right.
And potentially very deadly.
Deadly.
Yeah, it's like you're doubling down on a bet where the stakes are literally your life.
It's intense.
Yeah, and it raises the question of, like, what are the limits of this power system? You know.
So let's look at some of the theories that are out there.
Okay, yeah.
One of the most popular ones comes from Jabra.
Yeah.
He claims that every devil fruit has a demon living inside it.
Right.
And his theory is that if you eat 2 fruits, the demons inside will clash and cause you to explode.
It's a very vivid image.
It is.
And pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting how that idea kind of connects to real world stuff.
Right.
Like, you know those stories about demons living in trees in India?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's like this natural human thing to, like, explain things we don't understand with the supernatural.
Right. Fear of the unknown.
Exactly. Fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff.
Powerful stuff. But is it really demons that are causing these explosions?
Well, the world government.
Yeah.
The big guys. You know,
they
they offer a more, like, scientific explanation.
Okay.
They say that eating 2 devil fruits leads to death because of, like, incompatible lineage factors.
Lineage factors?
Yeah. Basically, think of it as the unique DNA code of each fruit.
Okay.
They say if you try to combine 2 that don't match, it's like mixing oil and water. Total chaos.
Yeah.
And a very messy end.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
What's that?
How much can we really trust the world government?
That's a good point. They haven't exactly been transparent in the past, have they?
No, not really.
I mean, they've gone through a lot of trouble to erase entire chunks of history.
Like what?
Like the God Valley incident.
Right.
And the whole existence of Roxtiasbeck.
It makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder, who's to say they're not messing with the truth about devil fruits too?
Exactly. So if we can't fully trust the world government, and the demon theory is kind of shaky, how do we explain Blackbeard?
Ah, Blackbeard. The big question mark.
He's the only one we've seen who can use the power of 2 devil fruits.
Yeah.
And he's not exploding.
Not at all. In fact, he seems to be doing pretty well.
He's thriving.
Thriving. He's the outlier. The guy who breaks all the rules.
So how is he doing it?
Well, that's the million-berry question, isn't it?
It is?
He got his second devil fruit, the Gurugura no Mai, from Whitebeard.
Right after Whitebeard died.
Exactly. How he did it is still a mystery.
Right.
Some people think he ate a piece of Whitebeard.
Oh.
Or maybe drank his blood.
Kind of gross.
Yeah. It's a bit grim. But then again, cannibalism has led to some surprising things in One Piece.
It's true.
Seems like a weird recurring theme.
It does.
But maybe in Blackbeard's case, it's the key to understanding his unique ability.
Maybe. So Blackbeard's a cannibal.
Possibly. But there's another popular theory.
What's that?
Some believe that Blackbeard isn't just one person.
Oh.
They think he might be like a composite being.
What do you mean?
Like 3 separate entities all sharing one body.
3 entities? That's crazy.
It is a bit out there, but it would explain a lot.
Like what?
Well, think about it. If each entity had its own separate lineage factor, they could each handle 1 devil fruit without any problems.
Oh, like each entity has its own dedicated space for a devil fruit power.
Exactly. And remember all those 3s we talked about before? The skulls on his flag, the pistols he carries?
Yeah.
Some fans think it's a connection to the Cerberus.
The 3-headed dog from Greek mythology.
The one and only, the guardian of the underworld.
Are we saying Blackbeard is the One Piece version of the Cerberus?
It's a fun thought, isn't it?
It is. But does it hold up?
Well, the Cerberus was known for being super fierce.
Yeah.
It could devour anything, and it kept souls from escaping the underworld. Blackbeard's darkness powers, especially with the Yami Yami no Mi, kind of have that same vibe.
Right.
He can literally suck in attacks and devil fruit powers.
And he's got that intimidating aura, for sure.
He does, doesn't he?
Little darkness.
Yeah, he's a pretty dark dude.
So the Cerberus connection is kind of making sense.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah. But let's get back to his devil fruit powers. He's got the Yami Yami no Mi, the darkness fruit, and the Gura no Mi, the quake fruit.
Powerful combo.
Super dangerous.
Yeah, that combination just screams danger.
It does. But how did he even get Whitebeard's devil fruit in the first place?
Right. The how is still a mystery.
Did he eat part of Whitebeard?
Maybe did his darkness power let him, like, pull out the Gura no Mi's essence?
I don't know.
Or was there some other crazy process we haven't even seen yet?
It's like Blackbeard knows something we don't.
It's possible.
Yeah.
He definitely seems to be operating on a different level.
He does. Let's say, just for fun, that he did figure out a way to bypass the normal devil fruit rules.
Okay.
What would that mean for the world?
Oh, man. Imagine pirates everywhere trying to copy him,
Yeah.
wanting to become walking weapons with multiple devil fruit powers.
That would be
It
insane.
would be total chaos. The balance of power would shift completely.
And the world government.
They wouldn't just sit back and watch.
No way.
You'd do anything to hold on to their power.
It would be a war.
Probably.
A huge war between those trying to exploit this new knowledge and those trying to suppress it.
All because one guy decided to break the rules and eat 2 devil fruits.
Blackbeard is a real game changer.
He is a total wild card.
He throws everything we thought we knew into question.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to talk about. What's that?
Vegapunk and his research.
Ah, yes, Vegapunk.
Oh.
He's the key to understanding all of this.
He's unlocked the secrets of lineage factors
Right.
and figured out how to replicate devil fruit powers.
He's a genius.
A total genius. But even he hasn't figured out how to use 2 powers at the same time.
Which makes Blackbeard even more mysterious.
Exactly. Could Vegapunk's research hold the answer to how Blackbeard did it?
It's definitely possible. In fact, recent events in the One Piece manga have revealed some really interesting new stuff about Vegapunk's discoveries.
Ooh, intriguing.
Yeah, and those discoveries might just be connected to Blackbeard's strange ability.
Well, we're about to head into the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
And I can't wait to see if these new developments bring us any closer to solving this devil fruit puzzle.
Yeah, me too. Let's get to it.
Welcome back, devil fruit fans. We're still unraveling the whole Blackbeard situation.
Yeah.
And how he manages to use 2 devil fruit powers.
It's a real head scratcher.
It is! Last time we were talking about Vegapunk.
Right, the science whiz.
Right. And even he hasn't figured out how to make two devil fruit powers work at the same time.
Which makes Blackbeard's ability even more mind-boggling.
Doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like Blackbeard's got access to some knowledge or technique that even Vegapunk hasn't discovered.
Okay, so remember that theory about Blackbeard maybe being like three people in one?
Oh yeah, the composite being idea.
What if each of those like entities or whatever had their own separate lineage factor thing?
That's an interesting thought.
Right.
Yeah, it's like each part of him has its own little compartment for a devil fruit power.
Exactly. And then there's all that symbolism with the number 3.
Oh, yeah.
3 skulls on his flag.
The 3 pistols.
3 pistols. Could that be a hint?
It's possible. Some fans think it points to a connection with the Cerberus.
Wait, the 3-headed dog from Greek mythology.
That was my one.
Are we saying Blackbeard is like the one-piece Cerberus?
What's a fun theory to think about?
I mean, it's pretty cool.
It is. The Cerberus was known for being super strong and fierce. It could eat anything.
And it guarded the entrance to the underworld.
So you're saying Blackbeard's like the gatekeeper of the One Piece underworld?
Maybe in a way. His darkness powers with the Yami Yami no Mi do have that kind of like consuming and controlling vibe.
Right, he can suck in attacks and even nullify other devil fruit powers.
Exactly, and he's got that whole dark and intimidating presence.
He does. It's like he just radiates darkness.
Yeah, he's a pretty intense guy.
So maybe the Cerberus connection isn't that far-fetched.
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay, but let's get back to his actual devil fruit powers.
Okay.
He's got the Yami Yami no Mi, the darkness fruit, and the Guro Guro no Mi, the quake fruit.
A truly devastating combination.
It is. But how did he actually take Whitebeard's devil fruit?
Right, that's the big mystery.
We know it happened right after Whitebeard died.
Yeah, but the how is still unclear.
Did he, like, eat a piece of Whitebeard's heart or something?
Some people think so.
Or maybe he used his darkness power to, like, extract the devil fruit essence? It's possible. Or maybe there's some even crazier method we haven't even thought of.
It's like Blackbeard's got this secret knowledge about devil fruits that nobody else has.
He definitely seems to be ahead of the curve.
Okay, let's imagine for a second that Blackbeard did figure out a way to get around the normal devil fruit rules.
Okay.
What would that mean for the world of One Piece?
Oh, man. It would be absolute pandemonium.
Right.
Imagine pirates all over the Grand Line trying to copy Blackbeard,
Yeah.
wanting to combine multiple devil fruit powers.
It would be a total free-for-all.
It would completely change the balance of power in the world.
And the world government.
They wouldn't just stand by and watch.
No way. They'd have to do something.
They'd probably go to extreme lengths to try and maintain control.
It would be an all-out war.
Most likely. A war between those who want to use this new knowledge and those who want to bury it.
And it would all be because Blackbeard decided to break the rules.
He's a true game changer.
He really is a total disruptor.
He makes us question everything we thought we knew about devil fruits.
Okay, so we've got Blackbeard and his crazy double devil fruit situation. And then we've got Vegapunk with all his research and discoveries.
Right.
Do you think Vegapunk's work could hold the key to understanding how Blackbeard did it?
I think it's very possible. In fact, recent events in the One Piece manga have given us some fascinating new insights into Vegapunk's research.
Hey, really? What kind of insights?
Well, remember how the Seraphim can switch between different devil fruit powers?
Yeah, like they have a library of abilities they can choose from.
Exactly. We've learned that they can access all these different powers, but they can't use 2 at the same time.
So even Vegapunk, with all his advanced technology, hasn't figured out how to overcome that limitation.
It seems to be a fundamental rule of devil fruits.
But Blackbeard's breaking that rule.
He is. Which raises a lot of questions.
Doesn't it?
It does. Could Blackbeard be using some method that Vegapunk hasn't even considered?
Maybe it's something to do with his darkness powers or that whole 3 entities theory.
It's possible. We know that Blackbeard has a deep understanding of devil fruits.
Yeah, he specifically sought out the Yami Yami no Mi.
Right. Which suggests he had a plan all along.
It's like he knew something everyone else didn't.
It's a chilling thought.
It is. But it makes him even more fascinating. So where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway for our listeners?
I think the main thing is that we need to rethink how we view devil fruits.
Okay.
The traditional explanations, even the scientific ones, might not be the whole story.
You're saying there's more to it than we realize.
Exactly. Blackbeard's existence proves that there are still so many unknowns.
Mysteries waiting to be uncovered.
Exactly. And that's what makes One Piece so exciting.
It does. Oda, the creator, is always throwing us curveballs.
He keeps us on our toes.
He does. So what should our listeners be looking out for?
Pay attention to Blackbeard's actions.
Okay.
Watch what Vegapunk is up to. And keep an eye out for any little clues Oda might drop in the story.
The answers are out there somewhere.
They are. We just have to find them.
This has been a wild ride.
It has. We've gone from ancient myths to cutting-edge science.
And we're still no closer to solving the mystery of Blackbeard.
But that's part of the fun, isn't it?
It is. The journey is just as important as the destination.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep theorizing, and never stop questioning the mysteries of the One Piece world.
Awesome advice. Until next time, everyone, keep the devil fruit discussions going. And we're back. It's the final stretch of our devil fruit deep dive.
Time to tie up some loose ends.
Yeah, we've gone over a lot of ground.
We have.
From ancient myths to cutting-edge science.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But let's refocus on Vegapunk.
Okay.
Because he's really the key player here when it comes to understanding devil fruits.
Absolutely. He's the one who unlocked the secrets of lineage factors and figured out how to copy devil fruit powers.
It's insane, building robots that can switch between different powers.
The Seraphim are incredible feats of engineering.
They are. But even Vegapunk hasn't been able to make two devil fruit powers work at the same time.
That's right. Even with all his knowledge and technology, that seems to be an impossible hurdle.
Which makes Blackbeard's ability even weirder.
It does. It's like he's found a loophole that even Vegapunk doesn't know about.
Okay, so what new stuff has Vegapunk discovered that might help us understand Blackbeard?
Well, remember how the Seraphim can switch between different devil fruit powers?
Yeah, they've got a whole library of abilities to choose from.
We've learned that while they can access all those powers, they can only use one at a time.
So they can't combine powers?
Nope. There seems to be some kind of fundamental barrier preventing that.
So even with all of Vegapunk's genius, he hasn't figured out how to break that barrier.
Exactly.
But Blackbeard is breaking it.
He is. Which means he must be doing something fundamentally different.
So what could that be?
Well, there are a few possibilities. Maybe Blackbeard is using a method that Vegapunk hasn't even thought of.
Like what?
We know that Blackbeard has a really deep understanding of devil fruits.
Yeah, he went after the Yami Nomi specifically.
Right? It was a very deliberate choice.
Yeah.
Which makes you think he had a plan.
Like he knew something everyone else didn't.
It's possible. He might be manipulating lineage factors in a way that Vegapunk hasn't discovered.
And that brings us back to that whole thing about him possibly extracting Whitebeard's devil fruit power.
Right? Maybe there's a connection there.
So we've explored all these different theories and possibilities.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? What have we learned about Blackbeard and devil fruits?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we need to keep an open mind.
Okay.
The old explanations, even the ones based on science, might not be the whole story.
You're saying there's still a lot we don't know?
Exactly. Blackbeard's existence proves that there are still mysteries to uncover.
And that's what makes One Piece so great.
Oda always keeps us guessing.
He does. So what should our listeners be thinking about going forward?
Keep watching Blackbeard.
Okay.
Pay attention to what Vegapunk is doing.
Right.
And look out for any clues Oda might drop in the story.
Because the answers are out there somewhere.
They are. It's up to us to find them.
Well, this has been an awesome deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much ground.
We've explored the mysteries of devil fruits.
Debated the implications of Blackbeard's actions.
And learned that there's still so much to discover.
It's a reminder that in the world of One Piece, anything is possible.
All right, let's dive into all things giants and Elbaf today.
Yeah, Eldon.
25 years in the making.
I know.
Finally, we get some answers, and the latest One Piece chapter
Oh, it did not disappoint.
did not disappoint.
Not at all. It's like Oda just knew
Right.
how huge this would be.
How big of a reveal Elbaf would be.
And he was carefully planting these seeds all this time.
And weaving in the Norse mythology, too.
Yeah,
It's just
that's like the next level.
next level storytelling.
Yeah.
We remember Dory and Brogy, right?
Oh, yeah,
Elbaf is their home turf.
it is.
This is a place where warriors are practically royalty.
Exactly.
It seems like these warrior traditions
Yeah,
are
yeah.
about to collide with some seriously world-ending ambition.
They are.
Yeah, because at the center of it all is Prince Loki.
Prince Loki.
This guy is intense.
He's intense.
That reveal in the latest chapter, blindfolded, radiating power.
The blind.
And get this, he wants to bring about Ragnarok, wants to end the world.
Wants to end the world.
Yeah, that reveal panel. I mean, talk about larger than life.
He's got that same...
He's got that same presence as Ord.
As Oars from Thriller Bark.
From Thriller Bark, yeah. What's fascinating is that Loki being blindfolded, it might actually be a clue.
Right.
Because in Norse mythology, Loki gets punished by being bound and having venom dripped on his face.
Interesting.
Could this be foreshadowing?
That's possible.
What do you think?
It's definitely possible. And I think that's what's so interesting about how Oda's using these mythological elements.
Yeah.
You know, like, is he going to do it straight or is he twisting it to make it work for the story? But here's the thing. Loki's not the only prince in Elbaf.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
2 princes.
2 princes.
Okay, so is this a power struggle?
Well, it's interesting because King Harold, their father, is already dead. So the fact that they're both still called prince, you know, it implies that there are some serious complications in how Elbaf determines its next ruler.
Ooh, this is giving me some Doflamingo Corazon vibes.
Exactly.
Good brother versus bad brother dynamic.
Yeah, and if we're looking at the Norse mythology, Herudin actually lines up with Odin more than Loki.
Right.
He's got that desire to be king.
Right.
His attack is called Gwar, after Odin's spear.
Oh, wow.
And he embodies that respect for giant traditions.
Plus, he teamed up with Luffy, so...
Yeah, well, that's basically...
It's the stamp of approval for good guys in the One Piece world, right?
It is.
But if they're not actually related by blood... What's the deal with their connection?
Well...
The source was mentioning something about them being blood brothers.
Yeah, in Norse mythology, Odin and Loki had this ritual where they mix their blood to become like sworn brothers. So maybe Loki and Herudin have this bond that goes beyond family ties. Something forged through shared experience or goal.
Yeah. So that adds a whole other layer.
It does.
To their relationship.
It does.
Especially if one wants to destroy the world and the other wants to rule it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That definitely sets the stage for some conflict. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about Loki's devil fruit. Because we finally know he has it. The real question is, what kind of power does this heirloom fruit grant him?
Right. And the source was suggesting it might even be more important than Luffy.
Oh, yeah.
In the grand scheme of things. Talk about pressure.
I know, poor Loki.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at the different fruit types, we've got Zoans, Paramecias, and Logias, all with wildly different abilities.
Yeah.
So let's start with Zoans. Given the Elbaf connection to giants, what if it's a true sun god Zoan? Contrasting with Luffy's sun god Nika form, giving us 2 sides of the same mythical coin.
I like that.
What do you think?
I do like that. The sun god battle would be amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's another Zoan possibility that's been making the rounds. The Fenrir fruit.
Oh, Fenrir.
You know, the giant wolf?
The giant wolf.
From Norse mythology?
Right.
That's destined to kill Odin.
During Ragnarok. Yeah, that's a popular one.
It's a popular theory, right? Okay, so it ties into the Norse theme.
It does.
Connects to Loki's ambition to bring about Ragnarok.
Yep.
And it parallels Yamato's mythical dog fruit.
Oh, nice.
Only with fire instead of ice.
I like that.
Okay, so I'm already kind of sold on the Fenrir zone. But let's play devil's advocate. What if it's a Paramecia?
All right.
Could we be dealing with some kind of sun-based power?
Possibly.
Or weather manipulation? Making Loki a living embodiment of Uranus.
Weather manipulation.
I mean,
a good one.
Anything is possible with Oda.
That's a really good one.
Right.
Yeah.
So a sun fruit would tie in with Vegapunk's research.
Oh, yeah.
On the ancient energy source.
It would.
The mother flame.
Right.
And weather control.
Yeah, think about that.
Would be devastating.
In the wrong hands.
Right.
Devastating.
Plus, remember how Loki's known as a trickster?
Oh, yeah, the trickster god.
In Norse mythologies.
Right.
What if his fruit is tied to hypnosis?
Ooh.
Or manipulation?
That's a good one.
You know, like mind control.
Mind control, yeah.
He could totally mess with people's perceptions.
He could.
Maybe even control Uranus.
Oh, if it turns out to be
If it turns out to be a living being.
a living being, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
So many possibilities with Paramecias.
With Paramecias.
But let's
Yeah.
not forget about Logias.
Oh, well.
This is where things could get really interesting.
You mean like a sun logia
Like a
that surpasses Kizaru's power?
suppresses Kizaru, yeah.
Oh, wait, hear me out. A logia that gives him control over all the elements.
Oh, wow.
He'd be like
All the elements.
a one-piece avatar.
A one-piece avatar.
I mean, come on.
That would be
That would be a game changer.
it would be a game changer.
Imagine a logia awakening on that scale.
I know, right?
It could reshape Elbaf itself.
Reshape Elbaf.
And let's not forget the connection to Ragnarok.
Right.
Destruction and rebirth.
Right.
What if Loki's awakening is what triggers the destruction of Elbaf
Oh.
and in turn unleashes Uranus?
Interesting.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a prince with a powerful, mysterious devil fruit who wants to bring about Ragnarok.
Right.
But how does this all tie into the bigger picture of the One Piece world?
Well, you remember that visual parallel Oda drew
Yeah.
between Loki's introduction and Oars back in Thriller Bark?
Oh, yeah.
Both were chained up. Both had those imposing horns.
Right.
It's too deliberate to ignore.
You're right. And then there's that giant sword we saw.
Oh, the
We're in chapter 1130.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It is.
Even for a giant.
Huge.
Could that be another clue about ancient giants?
Absolutely. We know Oars was from Elbaf, and now we've got this giant sword that looks like it could have belonged to an ancient warrior.
Yeah.
It all points towards Elbaf holding the key to understanding the history of giants and their connection to the world government.
So Elbaf is basically giant central.
It is Giant Central.
But what about Loki's devil fruit?
Okay.
Out of all the possibilities we've talked about,
Right.
which one do you think is the most likely and why?
You know, I'm leaning towards the Fenrir zone.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
We've got all this Norse mythology woven into Elbaf.
Right.
Loki wants to trigger Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And Fenrir is literally the mythical wolf destined to kill Odin during Ragnarok.
Right.
It's just too perfect thematically.
Plus, it would create this incredible parallel with Yamato
Yes.
and her mythical dog fruit.
Exactly.
Ice versus fire, wolf versus dog.
Yeah.
It would be visually stunning.
It would be.
But wouldn't a Logia awakening be more impactful
Okay.
in terms of causing widespread destruction?
You know, while a Logia awakening would be visually spectacular,
Right.
I think Oda's going for something more symbolic with Loki.
Okay.
He's not just a force of nature.
Right.
He's a cunning manipulator.
A trickster.
A trickster, yeah.
Yeah.
A Zoan form that embodies destruction and chaos just fits his character better.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But even if he has this powerful zone,
Right.
he can't bring about Ragnarok alone, right?
Right.
The source was mentioning something about potential alliances.
Alliances. Oh, yeah.
And let's be real.
Yeah.
The One Piece world is all about teamwork.
It is. It is.
So who do you think he might team up with?
Well, you remember Eustace Kid?
Ooh.
He's got a score to settle with Shanks.
Right.
And what better way to get revenge than by
Right.
causing chaos and destruction alongside Loki? They'd be a force to be reckoned with.
Talk about a chaotic duo.
I know, right?
But wouldn't that make them enemies of the Straw Hats?
Well,
I can't see Luffy just standing by
No.
while they just wreak havoc.
no, it definitely sets the stage
Right.
for some serious conflict.
Right. It's not just Kid we have to worry about.
Oh, no.
Remember Gecko Moria
Oh, Mario.
and Cross Guild?
Also Cross Guild? Oh, yeah.
They're after the Straw Hats' poneglyph rubbings.
Right.
And Elbaf could be the perfect place to make their move.
It could be.
Whoa. So we could have multiple factions converging on Elbaf,
Oh, yeah.
all with their own agendas.
It's going to be a mess.
It's going to be an all-out war.
It is.
But what about the ancient weapon?
Okay.
How does Uranus fit into all of this?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You remember that concept of the big three?
Yeah.
Fishman Island, Wano, and Elbaf?
Right.
Each of these locations has been foreshadowed since early in the story. And each seems to hold a piece of the puzzle when it comes to the ancient weapons.
Right. Fishman Island had Poseidon.
Yep.
Wano had Pluton.
Right.
So it stands to reason that Elbaf would have Uranus.
Exactly.
But what does that mean for Loki and his plan to bring about Ragnarok?
Well, if we look at the events that unfolded in Fishman Island and Wano,
Okay.
we see a pattern emerging.
Okay.
Fishman Island was prophesied to be destroyed by Noah,
Right.
and Wano's borders are likely to be opened by Zunesha,
Right.
unleashing Pluton upon the world.
So you're saying Elbaf might need to undergo
It might, yeah.
a similar cataclysmic event to bring Uranus into play.
It's possible.
And Loki's Ragnarok could be that very event.
Exactly. It might not be about senseless destruction, but rather a necessary step in a larger plan. Remember, Ragnarok isn't just about the end.
Right.
It's also about a new beginning.
So Loki might be trying to usher in that new beginning,
He could be.
even if it means sacrificing Elbaf in the process.
Possibly.
But how does that tie into the liberation of Uranus?
Think about the symbolism.
Okay.
Uranus is the god of the sky.
Right.
And in Elbaf, the most prominent feature is that massive tree
Yeah.
reaching towards the heavens.
Right.
What if the destruction of the tree,
Okay.
a symbol of the old world,
Yeah.
is necessary to bring Uranus down to Earth?
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah,
It's like the tree is a barrier between the world and Uranus.
it could be.
And breaking that barrier is the key to unlocking its power.
Possibly.
But wait,
Yeah?
didn't the source say something about the world of the gods dying if the tree fell?
That's right, but maybe that death is more of a transformation. A shift in power from the old gods to the new.
Okay.
Perhaps Loki believes that by destroying the old order, he can create a more just and equitable world.
So he's not just a power-hungry villain,
Right.
but a revolutionary
He could be.
who sees destruction as a necessary step towards creating something better.
Exact. It's pretty deep.
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
It certainly adds complexity to his character.
It does.
And it ties into a recurring theme in One Piece,
Right.
challenging the status quo,
Right.
fighting for freedom and equality.
Yeah.
Loki might be on the same side as Luffy in the end,
He could be.
even if their methods are drastically different.
It's like they're two sides of the same coin,
Right.
both fighting for a better future, but with vastly different approaches.
Right.
Yeah.
But that brings up another question.
Okay.
If Loki does manage to trigger Ragnarok and unleash Uranus,
Yeah.
who's going to control it?
That's the million-berry question, isn't it?
Wrong.
Will Loki try to control Uranus himself,
Right.
or will it fall into the hands of someone else?
Right.
Maybe someone unexpected.
Ooh, like Blackbeard.
Blackbeard,
Or maybe even the world government.
or the world government.
Ooh.
It's possible.
Right.
Remember, the world government has been searching for these ancient weapons for centuries.
Right.
They're not going to just sit back and watch
Right.
while someone else takes control of Uranus.
So we've got all these different factions vying for power.
We do.
A prophecy of destruction and rebirth,
Yeah.
and an ancient weapon with the potential to reshape the world.
It's starting to feel very endgamey.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And it makes the events unfolding in Elbaf all the more crucial.
Right.
We're on the cusp of a pivotal moment in the One Piece saga,
We are.
where the fate of the world,
Right.
the legacy of ancient giants,
Yeah.
and the truth about Uranus will all come together.
They will.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's not forget about another crucial element,
All right.
the human element.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about prophecies and ancient weapons, but what about the people caught in the middle of all this? I mean, Elbaf's a kingdom with its own culture and history and families. It's not just a battleground for power struggles.
You bring up a good point. And speaking of families,
Yep.
remember that little tidbit about Loki falling head over heels for Lola? He even asked for her hand in marriage.
Wait, Lola, Big Mom's daughter, the one with, let's just say, questionable taste in men. What was Loki thinking?
Well, that's the thing. Maybe it wasn't about love at all.
Oh.
Loki's a master manipulator, remember? Perhaps he saw an opportunity to forge an alliance with Big Mom through marriage, using Lola as a pawn in his game.
Whoa, that's cold. So he might have been playing everyone from the start.
It's possible.
But Lola turned him down right. Why would she do that? Did she see through his act?
Maybe she sensed something was off? That his heart wasn't truly in it? Or perhaps she saw a glimpse of his ambition, his desire for Ragnarok, and it scared her off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not exactly the ideal husband material if you're looking for a stable, peaceful life. But it just goes to show how complex Loki is. He's not just a power-hungry villain. There's a cunning, calculating mind at work here.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder about his true motivations. Is he really just driven by destruction? Or could there be a deeper, more idealistic goal behind his actions?
You mean like, maybe he believes that Ragnarok is necessary to create a better world, to break the cycle of oppression and usher in a new era of freedom and equality.
Exactly. It might sound crazy, but it wouldn't be the first time a One Piece character believed that destruction was necessary for change. Look at Dragon and the Revolutionary Army. They're fighting against the world government, a system that's inherently corrupt and oppressive.
So maybe Loki sees himself as a revolutionary too. He's just taking a much more, shall we say, explosive approach.
Yeah.
But even if his intentions are good, doesn't that make him incredibly dangerous?
Without a doubt. He's playing with forces he might not fully understand, and the consequences could be devastating. But that's what makes this whole saga so compelling, right? We've got characters like Luffy who fight for justice, villains like Blackbeard who crave power, and then there's Loki, this morally ambiguous figure who blurs the lines between good and evil.
He's a wild card, that's for sure. And it's impossible to predict what he'll do next.
But one thing's certain. Elbaf is about to become the center of the One Piece world. We've got prophecies, ancient weapons, power struggles, and a cast of characters who are all about to collide in a truly epic showdown.
It's going to be a battle for the ages, that's for sure. And as we eagerly await the next chapter, the question remains, will Loki succeed in bringing about Ragnarok? Will Uranus be unleashed? And what will the world look like on the other side of this cataclysmic event?
That, my friends, is the real mystery. And it's one that will keep us theorizing and debating for months to come. But that's the beauty of One Piece, isn't it?
Okay, get ready for this, because we are diving deep, deep, deep into Elbaf today.
Definitely.
And your research, it's got me so hyped.
Yeah!
Like seriously hyped
I bet.
for this arc.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at Elbaf through like this lens of Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And with all the hints Oda's dropped, you just know he's got something huge planned. Runes, prophecies.
Right.
Maybe even like a giant tree holding everything together.
It's going to be big, I know.
It'd be wild.
Yeah, you're right to be excited, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Elbaf has been like this legend whispered about in the world of One Piece for decades now, almost as long as the hunt for the One Piece itself.
It's crazy.
What makes your research, your deep dive so intriguing is that Oda, he might actually use Elbaf to finally answer some of those burning questions we have, like what was the Void Century? What are the ancient weapons all about? Maybe even like the very nature of their world.
Right.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
But I think a good place to start would be with the giants themselves.
Oh, yeah, the giants.
They're so fiercely devoted to the sun god Nika, right?
Yes.
Which, knowing Luffy,
I know, right?
throws a bit of a curveball into the mix, don't you think?
Absolutely, because this is the guy who, like, he would rather, like, devour a mountain of meat than be called a god. Even if his powers are literally screaming otherwise. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not every day that you see someone a walking contradiction like that. Yeah. Especially in a society that seemingly worships the very power that he embodies.
Right. Like, how does that even work?
Exactly.
Just like the ultimate clash of ideals,
Definitely.
Right? It makes you wonder, like, imagine Luffy.
Right.
This guy who champions freedom, scoffs at authority, and then he lands in this place, Elbaf, where Nika, literally the embodiment of his powers, is revered.
It's like, whoa.
Like, what? Yeah. How does he reconcile those conflicting views?
I don't know.
Especially if their culture, like, demands that he embrace this role.
Yeah.
He wants nothing to do with.
Right. It could be like a huge turning point for him.
I think so.
Forcing him to confront not just Elbaf's traditions.
Right. But also, like, the true nature of his own powers.
Totally. Talk about an identity crisis.
Right.
And that makes you wonder, like, will his powers even work the same way in Elbaf?
Who knows?
What if the environment, the beliefs, even like the very air of Elbaf interacts with his devil fruit in these crazy, unexpected ways? Yeah. Like, this could be where his whole, like, devil-may-care approach to his powers gets a reality check.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And don't even get me started on that image from the arc's introduction. That massive tree.
Oh, it's a tree.
It immediately makes you think of Yggdrasil, right?
Yes.
The world tree connecting the 9 realms in Norse cosmology.
It's like, the moment I saw that tree, my mind went straight to Yggdrasil.
Of course. Knowing Oda.
This isn't just some random environmental design choice.
No way.
This tree could be the key to unlocking major secrets.
Like what?
Maybe even a pathway to parts of their world that we haven't even seen yet.
Right. What if it's like a literal connection between islands?
It could be.
Or a way to get to, like, the moon.
Who knows? Think about it.
I know.
Especially with Enel just sitting up there
Right.
with his ties to ancient history.
I know.
Oda loves to plant those seeds.
He does.
And this feels like way more than just a coincidence.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be good.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Speaking of Oda and like planting these seeds and pulling from history,
Right.
there's something else in your research that like totally fascinated me.
Okay. Yeah.
The story of the Prose Edda.
Ah, yeah. A perfect example of like cultural survival, right?
Yes, exactly. It's this like collection of Norse myths and poems, and it only survived because it was like disguised as fiction.
Right.
How wild is that to think that these epic tales were almost lost forever?
Sure is.
And it got me thinking about Wano and how Oda used that arc to explore like themes of cultural erasure and the power of stories.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
like they're so intertwined.
It's a brilliant parallel, and it really speaks to Oda's ability to weave these seemingly like disparate threads, you know, into this really cohesive narrative.
Right, exactly.
You know, the Prose Edda, it was disguised to protect it, and that echoes Wano's struggle to preserve its own history, its heritage.
Right, and it's like he's saying, like, even in a world dominated by power, stories have this way of enduring.
Totally.
Of like finding a way through.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, if Elbaf is the next stop on this journey,
right,
what stories are going to be uncovered there?
Right.
And how are they going to like reshape our understanding of the One Piece world?
100%. 100%. And speaking of stories, you know, your research delves into some really like fascinating possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
When you start to think about the inclusion of these Norse figures.
Right.
Loki, for instance.
Oh, Loki.
Really caught my eye. You know, often he's portrayed as like this straight up villain.
Yeah.
But you propose a different take.
Yeah.
Loki as this like mischievous trickster.
I love that idea. And it fits so perfectly with those little Lego hints that Oda dropped early on.
Yes.
It's like he's like toying him with us.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like using those nods to Scandinavian culture to just like hint at something deeper.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
absolutely.
Like what else you got, Oda?
And if we're kind of like leaning into those cultural references, like what if he takes it a step further?
Yeah, what if he does?
You know, imagine this. Zoro.
Yeah.
Who is notoriously bad with directions.
Oh, you know, right.
Gets lost,
but
not in like some ancient forest, but a giant IKEA.
Oh my God, stop.
Right. It's like this playful nod to those Scandinavian stereotypes.
Yeah.
But it also creates like this hilarious scenario.
Oh, totally. I need to see that. Zoro trying to decipher IKEA instructions.
Yes.
While like battling mythical creatures. Come on.
It writes itself.
It does. But okay, so back to Loki.
Okay, yeah.
I love this idea of him being more mischievous than like straight up malicious. It opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah, it does.
Especially for Usopp, I think.
Usopp. The brave warrior of the sea.
Yes.
Or at least he will be.
One day.
But you're right, Loki's presence could be that catalyst for Usopp's growth.
Right, yeah.
Like, what if Loki's trickery?
Yeah.
It's not about, like, causing harm.
Right.
But it's actually setting the stage for Usopp to shine.
Like, how would that even work?
Imagine, okay, Loki shows up, right? And his deception, everyone's fooled.
Okay.
But Usopp, with his sharp mind.
I know, right? You think so?
And his keen observation, he sees through it.
Usopp,
he's the only one.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Right. It's the classic, like, underdog story.
Yeah.
But with that One Piece twist.
I like it.
Where Usopp, the sniper who cries wolf, becomes the one person who can actually expose the truth.
He's not lying this time.
Right. And it challenges everyone's perceptions.
And he saves the day.
And potentially saves the day.
I love that.
It's like this moment where, you know, his lies actually become his strength.
Oh, that's good.
They allow him to see what other people miss.
Wow.
Right.
That's really good.
And we can't forget about the potential for Niflheim. The underworld.
Right.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't want, like, some cliche trip.
Right, it's been done.
To the land of the dead, you know?
Right, yeah.
But what if it's not about, like, these grand spectacles and, you know, these huge set pieces? What if it's about something much more personal, like a personal journey, especially for Brook?
Brook in the underworld.
Think about it.
Now that's interesting.
He's the one character who's actually experienced death,
That's true.
who understands that boundary between life and what lies beyond.
He's walked that line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine Niflheim as like a reflection of Brook's past.
Oh, okay.
A realm where he actually has to confront like maybe lingering fears
Right.
or some kind of unresolved issue from his previous life.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wouldn't just be like a detour.
Right.
It would be a crucial part of his character arc.
Right. It would make it like really meaningful.
It adds a whole other dimension to his journey.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so we've got Luffy potentially having like this existential crisis.
Yeah,
Zoro like building furniture in a mythical land.
it's great.
And Brook like having a therapy session with his past in the underworld.
I love it.
Elbaf is going to be wild. But you know what really stood out to me in your research?
What's that?
The runes.
Oh, yeah. Those runes, they're just begging to be figured out, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And you were talking about their potential connection to the voice of all things and like even conquers Hakesi.
Right.
Could this be the arc where Oda finally gives us like the Hakasi rundown?
I think so.
Like everything.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. Given how important Elbaf seems to be thematically.
Right.
I mean, think about it. You've got these giants. They're like steeped in ancient traditions.
Right.
It's a place where like myths and legends, they just come to life.
Yeah, yeah. Like it just feels right.
And the runes, as this form of like ancient language, ancient magic,
Right.
could be the key to unlocking these like higher levels of power.
Right. And like maybe explaining how they're connected to the voice of all things.
Exactly. It's like this giant puzzle.
Oh, I like that.
And the runes are those missing pieces that
Yes.
bring everything into focus.
I'm here for it. Bring on the runes.
Right. And speaking of mysteries, we need solved.
Okay, yeah.
We haven't even touched on that whole eye patch pirate thing
Oh, right. Yeah.
that Oda keeps dangling in front of us.
Boda, come on. Just tell us.
For years, fans have been speculating.
Oh, I know.
And now with Elbaf on the horizon and with your research about like Odin's sacrifice.
Odin.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
For wisdom, it takes on a whole new meaning, don't you think?
You think Luffy's really going to lose an eye in Elbaf?
It would be a bold move.
It would.
Even for Oda.
Right.
But it would be huge.
But then again, sacrifice is kind of a big deal in One Piece, right?
Oh, totally. And not just in One Piece, but in like myths and legends all over.
That's true. That's true.
Throughout history.
Okay.
And thematically, it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
With Odin's sacrifice.
Right. But what if Oda flips the script?
Okay, how?
Like, what if the eye patch isn't literal?
Okay.
What if it's symbolic?
Interesting. Like what?
Like, Luffy's sacrifice isn't physical. Okay.
It's something way deeper.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Right.
Like what?
Like he has to make a choice that like compromises his ideals. Or maybe he has to choose between what he wants and like the safety of his crew.
Ooh, that would be tough.
Right.
That kind of sacrifice, that test, it's like way more impactful than just losing an eye.
Right. Because that's Luffy's thing.
Yeah.
Defying expectations.
He's all about it.
But let's talk expectations for a second.
Okay.
Because you mentioned the Norns.
Ah, the Norse.
Okay. Trying to predict what Oda's going to do with them
I know.
is like a fool's errand. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Right. Like, good luck.
That's the beauty of it, though, right?
Okay.
It's the unpredictable nature of fate.
Yeah.
The idea that even if we get, like, a little glimpse of the future, it's really our choices that still matter.
Right. Exactly.
It's a theme that we see all the time in One Piece.
Yeah.
And the Norns, if they show up,
Right.
could be like the embodiment of that whole struggle between destiny and free will,
Totally. Like, imagine they show up and they give the Straw Hats this big prophecy.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it's about Laugh Tale or like a warning about their ultimate enemy or something.
That'd be good.
And it's like, how does that knowledge, mess with them?
Totally.
How does it influence their choices?
Exactly.
Do they just say, okay, and embrace their destiny? Or do they try to fight it?
Right. It's a recipe for disaster, honestly.
Yeah.
But also some really good internal conflict,
So good. And your research touched on one more thing that I have to ask you about.
Oh, yeah.
The Philgia.
The Philgia. Yes.
Tell me everything.
Okay, so in Norse mythology,
Yeah.
Philgia is like a guardian spirit.
Okay.
Often takes the form of an animal
Right.
that's connected to a person's fate, their destiny.
Right. Okay.
Now, apply that to devil fruits.
Okay.
What if they're not just like magical fruits?
Yeah.
What if they're vessels
Yeah.
that are imbued with like a fragment of a soul
What?
with its own will?
Okay.
You know, maybe that explains why they're so rare, why they have such unique powers,
Right.
why some of them even seem to have, like, their own personality.
Oh, that's so interesting. Because, like, we've seen those little quirks
Totally.
with devil fruits, you know.
Yeah. Like, what if the soul inside the fruit
Right.
can influence the user?
Yes.
Maybe even try to, like, nudge them toward a certain destiny.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Right. It adds a whole other level
It does.
to this whole thing.
Devil fruits as fragments of a larger consciousness. That changes everything.
Right. We're talking next level stuff here.
Next level. I'm obsessed. Okay. Okay, I know we could talk about this for another hour.
We could.
But sadly, we're approaching the end of our Elbaf deep dive.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
It really does. But okay, last question, and it's a big one. What happens after Elbaf? Like, this feels huge.
Yeah.
Like, this is the bridge to the end game.
You're right to feel that way. Elbaf can't just be a quick stop.
Right.
It has to, like, launch us forward.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Maybe Elbaf is where the Straw Hats finally get all the info they need about Laughtail, like
Yeah.
the real history of the world.
Okay.
Or, and this is a thought that both excites me and terrifies me at the same time.
Okay, I'm ready.
This is where they suffer a major loss,
Oh, no.
like a real blow.
Oh, no.
That reminds them that, like, the path to the One Piece,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
It's paved with sacrifice.
Exactly.
You have officially given me chills and a ton to think about.
It's gonna be big.
It is.
The One Piece series has already surpassed 25 years, and so has Luffy's journey. However, Luffy's age has barely changed, as he went from 17 to 19 years old, thanks to the years he spent training with Rayleigh. So the question is, how long has Luffy's journey actually lasted? That's exactly what I'm going to explain today, narrating the journey day by day. If you enjoy this type of video, leave a like right now and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 1,000 subscribers and fulfill my dream. Day 1. Luffy turns 17 and sets sail from Fuchsia Village. He defeats the Giant Sea King. Day 2. He meets Alvida and Kobe, defeats Alvida, and escapes with Kobe. Day 3. They arrive at Shell's Town, where Luffy frees Zoro, defeats Morgan, and Zoro joins the crew. They say goodbye to Kobe. Day 4. They sail towards Orange Town. Day 5. In Orange Town, they face Buggy, and Nami temporarily joins the group. Day 6. They meet Gaimon. Day 7. They arrive at Syrup Village, meet Usopp, defeat Kuro, and acquire the Going Merry. Usopp joins the crew. Day 8. They sail towards Baratie. Day 10. At Baratie, Sanji joins the crew after a battle with Don Krieg. Zoro is defeated by Mihawk and vows to grow stronger. Day 11. Nami steals the Going Merry and returns to Arlong Park. Luffy defeats Arlong, and Nami officially joins the crew. Days 12 to 13. They sail towards Logtown. Day 14. They arrive at Logtown. Luffy avoids being executed by Buggy and is saved by Dragon. They enter the Grand Line, meet Crocus, Laboon, and acquire a log pose. They reach Whiskey Peak, night of day 14. At Whiskey Peak, they confront Baroque Works, discover Miss Wednesday is Princess Vivi, and decide to help her. Day 15. They arrive at Little Garden, face Baroque Works, and meet the giants Dory and Brogy. Day 18. They arrive at Drum Island, search for a doctor for Nami, defeat Wapple, and Chopper joins the crew. Days 19 to 24. They sail towards Alabasta. Day 25. They meet Mr. Tubon Clay and continue towards Alabasta. Days 26 to 44. They sail towards Alabasta. Day 45. They arrive at Alabasta. Luffy defeats Crocodile in their third battle. Vivi stays behind and Robin joins the crew. Days 46 to 47. They stay in Alabasta. Day 48. They arrive at Jaya, where Luffy defeats Bellamy and meets Blackbeard. Day 49. They use the Knockup Stream to reach Skypiea. Days 50 to 52. In Skypiea, Luffy defeats Enel and discovers part of the poneglyphs. Days 53 to 54. They rest after leaving Skypiea. Day 55, they arrive at Water 7. Day 56, at Water 7, they discover the Going Merry cannot be repaired. Usopp leaves the crew and Robin turns herself in to CP9. Day 58, at Annie's lobby, they rescue Robin, declare war on the world government, and defeat CP9. Day 59, 59, they return to Water 7, where Frankie begins building the Thousand Sunny. Day 60 to 63, they stay in Water 7. Day 64, the Thousand Sunny is completed. Frankie and Usopp officially join the crew. Day 65, they arrive at Thriller Bark, face Moria and Kuma. Brook joins the crew. Days 66 to 68, they remain at Thriller Bark. Day 69, they leave Thriller Bark and sail towards Sabaody. Day 73, they arrive at Sabaody. Luffy punches a celestial dragon, and Kuma separates the Straw Hats. Day 74, Luffy arrives at Amazon Lily, an island inhabited only by women. He meets Boa Hancock, who falls in love with him. Luffy learns of Ace's execution and decides to rescue him. Days 76 to 81, Luffy travels on a marine ship with Hancock to Impel Down. Days 81 to 82, at Impel Down, Luffy fights to rescue Ace, faces Magellan, and is saved by Bon Clay and a Vankov. He learns Ace has been moved to Marineford. Day 82, Luffy escapes Impel Down with Jinbei and other prisoners heading to Marineford. Day 83, Luffy arrives at Marineford. He tries to save Ace but tragically witnesses his death. Whitebeard also dies in the battle. Days 84 to 94, severely injured, Luffy is taken to Amazon Lily, where he remains in a coma for 11 days. Upon waking, he is devastated by Ace's death. Day 95, Luffy, Jinbei, and Rayleigh return to Marineford to send a message to the Straw Hats that they will reunite in 2 years at Sabaody. Days 96 to 101, Luffy travels to Rusakana, an island with dangerous wildlife where Rayleigh begins his training. Day 109, Luffy's training officially begins under Rayleigh. In this first part of the video, we talked about Luffy's journey during the pre-time skip, giving us a total of 109 days filled with countless experiences. Now in the second part, we're going to count all the days in his post-time skip journey up to the current Elbaf arc. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 1,000 subscribers and fulfill my dream. Now let's dive into the post-time skip. Day 1, the Straw Hats reunite at Sabaody Archipelago after 2 years of training. They encounter fake Straw Hats and Marines before setting sail for Fishman Island. Day 1 continued. They arrive at Fishman Island, an underwater city inhabited by fishmen and mermaids. They confront the new Fishman pirates led by Hody Jones, who seeks to overthrow King Neptune and capture Princess Shirahoshi. After a fierce battle, Luffy and the crew save the island and its people. Jinbei promises to join the crew in the future. Days 2 to 3, they spend 2 days on Fishman Island. Day 3, they leave Fishman Island and travel to Punk Hazard. Day 4, the crew arrives at Punk Hazard, an island of fire and ice. They ally with Trafalgar Law, now a warlord, to take down Kaido. They defeat Caesar Clown, who is conducting dangerous experiments and creating artificial devil fruits. Day 4 continued. After defeating Caesar, they set sail for Dressrosa. Day 5, the crew arrives at Dressrosa, an island controlled by Warlord Doflamingo. Days 5 to 6. Over 2 days, they fight in the Colosseum, encounter the dwarves, and lead a rebellion with the former King Riku. Luffy battles Doflamingo in a climactic showdown, liberating Dressrosa. Day 15. After spending 1 week at sea, they arrive at Zoo, a giant elephant carrying an island on its back. Days 15 to 22. They reunite with their crewmates, meet the Mink tribe, and find a road poneglyph crucial to locating the One Piece. They prepare for their next journey. Day 23. After 6 days of travel, they reach Whole Cake Island. Days 23 to 27. The Straw Hats attempt to rescue Sanji from an arranged marriage orchestrated by Big Mom. Luffy battles Katakuri in a legendary duel. With the help of their allies, they escape Whole Cake Island after delivering the wedding cake to appease Big Mom. Jinbei and the Fishman pirates stay behind to cover their escape. Day 28, they leave Whole Cake Island. Days 29 to 41, they travel for 13 days to reach Wano Country. Day 42, the crew arrives at Wano, an isolated nation under the tyrannical rule of Kaido and Shogun Orochi. Days 42 to 61, they spend 20 days preparing for the raid on Onigashima, gathering allies and strategizing. Day 62, the raid begins, featuring intense battles with the Beast Pirates, Big Mom, and Kaido. Luffy debuts Gear 5th. unleashing immense power to defeat Kaido. Day 63. After liberating Wano, the crew set sail again. Days 64 to 67. They travel for 4 days to reach Egghead Island. Day 68. On Egghead Island, they meet Vegapunk and his many forms while discovering the island's secrets. CP0 agents, including Rob Lucci, arrive with orders to eliminate Vegapunk. Admirals Kizaru and the 5 elders also join the battle. Luffy and the crew fight valiantly against these powerful foes. Day 69. After a chaotic day on Egghead Island, they leave and set their sights on Elbaf. Day 70. The crew seemingly reaches Elbaf, the legendary island of giants. And now, with this, we have concluded Luffy's journey in the post-time skip with a total of 70 days, to which we must add the 109 days from the first part of the journey in the pre-time skip, making a total of 179 days. This means Luffy has spent more time apart from the Straw Hats during his 2-year training with Rayleigh than he has spent with them, a fact that blew my mind when I discovered it. And that's it for the video about Luffy's travel days. As always, if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 1,000 subscribers and fulfill my dream. Thank you so much for watching and sending you a big hug.